He's a former Marine, but he's certainly
Call this meeting to order. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next is invocation by Assembly of God. Would you bow your heads and pray with me? Heavenly Father, today we lift up our Mitchell City Council meeting to you today. God, I pray that you would bring spiritual renewal, revival, and healing to our city. I pray that the people of Mitchell would call out to you, God. I pray you begin taking leaps of faith that honor you and honor your name. We want to see growth in Mitchell. God, we want to see good spiritual fruit come out of Mitchell. God, impact our city for you. Use the leaders you put in place, bless them, help them to be united in the direction you want our city to go. I pray that you'll give our leaders wisdom regarding this potential correctional facility in Davidson County. Give them eyes to see and ears to hear. Remind us now that the decisions we make today will impact our future generations. Bless our water projects in Mitchell from the lake to the water treatment facility. Jeremiah 29, verse 7 encourages your people to seek the peace of this city that you planted us in. You call us to pray for Mitchell. For in its peace, we're told that we will have the peace overflow into our own lives. Lastly, I pray for the wisdom of Solomon. You tell us in the book of James that we can ask for wisdom. James 1:5 says, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. You tell us to ask in faith, so that is what we're doing today. Thank you, God, that you hear and you answer our prayers. I pray this all in the powerful name of Jesus. Amen. Thank you. Roll call.
Savers.
Here.
Goldhammer.
Here.
Dosher.
Here.
McCardle.
Here.
Barrington.
Here.
Bathke.
Here.
Charts.
Here.
Smith.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum. First, approval of consent agenda items. Items appearing on the consent agenda may be removed by a city council member for discussion at the beginning of the formal agenda items. Would anyone like to remove anything?
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. McCartney. Second by Mr. Goldhammer. Any further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss anything on the consent agenda? Okay, roll call.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Barrington.
Aye.
Bathke.
Aye.
Charts.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Savers.
Aye.
Goldhammer.
Aye.
Motion carries. Citizens input. If you need to address the mayor and members of city council on an item that was not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium and state your name and your concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken at this time. Would anyone like to address the council?
Good evening, Council and Mayor. My name is Stuart Hansen. At the last council meeting, Terry Savers came up here and spoke about how nice the lake shore looked after John McLeod and Dwight Scott cut down and trimmed trees and cleaned up the brush. A question I have, is either one of them an arborist? Mr. Savers also said he sees more kids fishing now that the shorelines have been cleaned up. That's true. But before the trees were cut down, trimmed up, and the brush cleaned up in and around the shorelines, those same kids were fishing. You just couldn't see them unless you were in a boat. I've fished Lake Mitchell out of a boat for over 40 years, so I've seen tons of kids fishing the shorelines. And when you saw those kids fishing, most of them knew what they were doing because they were fishing in and around the brush that was in the water. Why? Because that's where a huge majority of the fish live. They need that cover to thrive and survive. That's where they go to have their babies. And when they have their babies, the trees and brush that's in the water protects those babies from predators. When you take out all the trees and brush from the shorelines, you're eliminating all the places where the fish are safe. Also, when you cut down the trees and trim the limbs on the existing trees 15 to 20 feet off the ground, you're eliminating shade for the people that are fishing the shorelines. You're also eliminating shade for the fish. And how many of you up here know that fish do not have eyelids? They can't blink, so fish won't hang out in shallow water if there is no shade. What if we use that same logic for the campground? While driving past the campground on 37, I can't see who's in there, who's using the picnic tables, or who's making s'mores around the campfire. So let's just go in and cut the trees down so that we can see that people really are using the campground. Why wouldn't we do that? Because there wouldn't be any shade. Drive around the lake and look at the 2 boat ramps. All the trees have been cut down there as well, so there is no shade when a person wants to park their vehicle. It would have been nice if the people responsible for removing all the trees and brush from the shorelines could have talked to the fishermen to get their thoughts and opinions. If you would have asked, they would have told you to leave the brush in the water because that's where the best fishing is. If you know anything about getting young kids into fishing, you have to fish where the fish are so they can catch something. Otherwise, they will get bored very quickly and chances are they won't want to go again. So don't think that just because you clear out all the trees and brush from the shorelines or make flat spots on the rocky riprap that it will be good for fishing, because it won't. And I'm not up here for myself because my expiration date will be here soon enough. I'm up here for the young kids that won't be able to experience the great fishing Lake Mitchell had to offer. And for me, that's sad because in this day and age of cell phones and computers, fishing is a great escape from all of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the council?
Mr. Mayor, Council, Joe Schrader, Public Works Director. Just want to give a quick update on the project. We have scheduled for Main Street at 4th to be paved tomorrow morning. Want to give a shout out to Schoenfelder Construction and their subs, Rex Winkle Concrete and Mebius Nursery. The completion date for that project was July 18th. And right now, pending rain this evening, hopefully not too much, that will be paved and open tomorrow. Just want to give them a shout out.
A month early. I like it. Okay.
I'm Elizabeth with Mitchell Main Street and beyond. And yes, we are very excited to have Main opened up here for a little bit before we can move on to 2nd and Main. But with that being said, it is the kickoff of June's First Fridays. This first Friday on Main, we are celebrating the garden party with the Habitat for Humanity, which is a fundraiser for them there as well. We have over 20 vendors, 7 food trucks, the kid pedal pole, and lots of other activities happening this Friday night. So we invite everyone out and have a good time. Come together and just be a community again. So not that saying that we're not being a community, but having that sense of congregation and back to the old good times where we all kind of just came together and we were friendly for a night and then we can put our clothes back on and go back to 8 to 5. But yes, so thank you guys. Bye.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the council? Okay, we're going to move on to mayor and city council discussion items. Does anyone on the council have anything that is not in the agenda? Okay, I'd like to just say something if no one's got anything. First of all, thanks to everyone that came out. I've never seen so many landlords in one room. There's going to be quite a few topics that are going to be passionate tonight. I just want to make sure everyone stays calm, and I believe most of us will. And I know that all of us are trying to do what's best, in our opinion, for the city of Mitchell. And we all have different opinions, and I know we're going to respect that, but it's exciting for me to see a lot of people in a lot of rooms because there's a lot of big decisions coming tonight. So thank you, everyone, for that. And without anything else, we'll start with the Board of Adjustment. Entertain a motion for the City Council to recess and sit as the Board of Adjustment.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer. Oh, second by Bucky. Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, say the sign. Motion carries. Hearing and action on the application for LifeQuest Inc. variance permit. LifeQuest Inc. has applied for a variance permit for the following front yard setback of 10 feet versus 25 feet, a rear yard setback of 20 feet versus 25 feet, and both side yard setbacks of 3 feet versus 5 feet. This is located at 1000 block of East 8th, legally described as shown on the agenda. Mr. Jenigas.
Mr. Mayor and Council, Planning Commission recommended approval of this 4-0 with 1 abstention and 2 absent. Notices were sent out to the neighbors, published in the paper, signs posted, and we did not receive any responses back from this at all. You've seen this area previously for a grant that's being done with LifeQuest. If you go down, scroll down on that GIS photo, if you would, please. There's setbacks that shows with their micro homes that they're doing a little bit further. You'd think that they do a bigger setback go further back than the property line than in the front property line. There's a 20-foot easement with the electrical line, so they can't push it back any further to the north. So that's why the smaller setbacks to the south side of it than to the north side. On the side yard setbacks, on the east side is a public right of way that's an unimproved road, and on the west side is, we're not sure who really owns it, if it's the railroad or City of Mitchell. They're working through that to see who's owning that, and maybe they can purchase that piece of property. There will be sidewalk along 8th Street. That will be public right of way, and then they're arching for private sidewalk that goes up to each of their dwelling units. There's 6 dwelling units and then a center office with a garage. The layout with this is so that the person in that office can kind of see to the front of each of the houses there. That's why it's in that curve instead of in a straight line. I can answer any questions that you have for me. I believe the applicant's here if you have any questions for him at all, too.
I think this is an awesome project they're doing, so I'm going to make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. McCardle, second by Mr. Sabers. Any further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Aye.
Oh
Yeah, roll call, sorry, roll call. Thank you for reminding me.
Barrington,
Abstain.
Bathke,
Aye.
Charks,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Sabers,
Aye.
Goldhammer,
Aye.
Dosher, McCardle.
Motion carries. Reconvene the City Council. Entertain a motion for the Board of Adjustment to adjourn and the City Council to reconvene in regular session.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer. Second by Mr. Bathke. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Sorry about that. Do I have to do a roll call on that one?
I don't think so.
Okay, we're good. Yeah. Motion carries. Hey, you got to remind me from that. I know, buddy. All right, hearing an action on the following alcohol license application. A. John and Chiara Adamo doing business at Adamo's 223 North Main Street for a new on-off retail wine and cider license. Video lottery is not included. And John and Chiara Adamo doing business at Adamo's 223 North Main Street for a new retail on-off sale malt beverage and South Dakota farm and wine license. Video lottery is not included. Chief Unifling?
Mr. Mayor, City Council, Police Department has reviewed this and we have no concerns. Recommend approval.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Sabers for both. Are we supposed to do them individually?
I guess you don't have to.
Okay. Second by who? Marty. Okay. Further discussion?
I just want to point out that I think this is probably the new Italian restaurant that's going to be on Main Street.
Yes, it is. I believe so too.
Good.
Okay. Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? You don't have to if you don't want to. Okay. Roll call.
Charks,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Sabers,
Aye.
Goldhammer,
Aye.
Dosher, McCardle,
Aye.
Barrington,
Aye.
Bathke.
Motion carries. Action to approve 2025-2026 renewal of malt beverage license for the Mitchell Meat Lodge. Chief Unifling?
Mayor, Mr. Council, Police Department recommends approval on this as well.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Barrington, second by Mr. Goldhammer. Further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? Roll call.
Sabers,
Aye.
Goldhammer,
Aye.
Dosher, McCardle,
Aye.
Barrington,
Aye.
Bathke,
Aye.
Charks,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries. Action to award bid on Mitchell Regional Landfill Fencing Project 2025-35. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council. Bids were opened on May 27th in City Hall Council Chambers at 1:30. 2 bids were received, with the low bid being from LT Companies out of T for $98,548. Bid tabulation is attached for detailed information. The project moves the containment fence to better suit our operations and catch blowing trash. Project completion date is November 1st of 2025. Staff does recommend awarding the bid to LT Companies, and I can answer any questions you may have.
How many people bid that, Joe?
2.
Two.
2 companies, LT Companies and American Fence Company. Engineer's estimate was roughly $139,500. Second bidder was $128,700. So LT Companies was quite a bit under what we thought it would be.
That's good. Motion by Mr. Mercado. Second by Mr. Bethke. Any further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? Okay, roll call.
Barrington.
Aye.
Bathke.
Aye.
Charles.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Savers.
Aye.
Goldhammer.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Motion carries. Hearing and second reading on ordinance O 2025 rezoning of the address as shown on the agenda. Mr. Jenkins.
Mr. Mayor and Council, Planning Commission recommended approval of this. I've not heard any new comments from any neighbors or anybody since the first reading. There was the one letter that was against, and there's the phone call with some drainage concerns in the area. Applicant said that they'd be putting up some storage units in that area by dividing into the three. It used to be TWC in this area. It got switched to R4 in 2014. They're leaving the house as R4, so that way it's going to be easier for a conventional home loan mortgage with that. I can answer any questions that you have. Applicants here, if you have any questions for them as well.
I'll move to approve.
Motion by Mr. McCardle.
Second.
Second by Mr. Goldhammer. Further discussion? One abstention. Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? Okay. Roll call.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Barrington.
Aye.
Bathke. Charles.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Savers.
Aye.
Goldhammer.
Aye.
Okay, did I screw that up? Am I supposed to do a motion to adopt first? Was that what the motion was 15?
Move to adopt.
Okay, well, perfect. Just making sure. Motion by Mr. Barrington, second by Mr. Goldhammer. Further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this portion? Okay. Roll call.
Savers.
Aye.
Goldhammer.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Barrington.
Aye.
Bathke. Charles.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
If I may, I would ask that we move. I would like to make a motion to move agenda item number 26 up to agenda item or the next agenda item, please.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to move agenda 26 up to right now.
And just to be clear, the reason for this is I had a discussion with them earlier this week, and I told them that they would be earlier in the agenda. I misread the agenda when I told them that, and so I see that their lawyer's with them today, so I don't want to have them incur a bunch of extra costs.
Not to be difficult, but I had somebody reach out to me that was planning on coming later. We need to stay with the posted time, I believe.
Mr. Johnson?
It's up to the council.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Further discussion. Am I supposed to ask the audience for discussion on this before we open that, or just let the council decide?
Just the council.
Okay. Any further discussion before we vote? Okay, we'll do a roll call.
Smith.
Aye.
Charles.
Aye.
Bathke.
No.
Barrington.
Aye.
McCardle.
Aye.
Dosher. Goldhammer.
Aye.
Savers.
Aye.
Motion carries. So we are going to skip to item number 26. Discussion on partial alley closure of alley joining 6th and 7th between Main and Raleigh streets approved on May 5th, 2025 City Council meeting. You want to start? You want me to start? I'll give a brief history for everyone in the audience and at home. So we voted, or the City Council voted to close down the alley between 6th and 7th near Main Street Mercantile, the Cornerstone, and the watering hole in the Chamber area. It was passed. We originally talked about this several months ago on what we should do to close down the alley. There was two different options. One was cement barricades to see if we liked it, and two, if it works out good, we would go to a more permanent swinging gate for a little bit more money. So this was the cheaper option to see if it worked out, and sounds like there may be some opposition to that, and that's why we're here to discuss this. So go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Doug Daly. For those of you who don't know me here in the audience, Terry and Gwenda Cook have asked me to speak on their behalf tonight. They are the owners of the, I guess I was going to call it the watering hole, but it's the Cornerstone 2 across the street that used to be Uncle Zeke's. And the purpose for us asking to have this put on the agenda for tonight's meeting is to see if we can't work out some sort of a compromise with regard to the setup of the current barricades. Overall, the Cooks don't have any real issues with blocking off access for through traffic, but the current configuration of the barricades prevents them from getting vehicle access to the rear of their building. They are currently in the process of selling that building, working on a sale to the chamber as I understand it. So they are going to be liquidating all of the materials and things that were in there. My understanding is they inherited a lot of items from the old Uncle Zeke's, and it's going to be quite a process for them to get out of there. Well, now the way the barricades are set up, they cannot get a vehicle back to the back door of their building. So everything would have to be hauled out the front door to include deliveries. My understanding is the delivery truck had to deliver there on Main Street yesterday and maybe even caused a little bit of a congestion there. So we're asking the council's consideration to just readjust it so that maybe by pushing the current blocks further north that are on the south side. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, there's like retaining wall gabions that are at each end. Looks like approximately where the red blocks is there. What prevents any vehicles currently from being able to back in there. And so we believe that the purpose of blocking that off to allow traffic back and forth between the Gunkel businesses would still be able to be done, just to be a little narrower. And then maybe even put a temporary gate in further south so that only authorized vehicles then could get in there, whether it be for deliveries or that kind of thing. Mr. Cook's having some medical issues. He's got surgery on his foot scheduled for Wednesday, and so it's just not real conducive for him to be able to haul everything in and out of there. And also, unfortunately, it's not going to be a one weekend deal where they go in and move everything out of there. It's going to be a process throughout the summertime until they actually get the property sold. So we're mainly just asking you to reconfigure the site so that they can have access with their vehicles, and also a trash dumpster so that they can start throwing stuff out back there.
You finished? So I'll get a little bit more information since this is the people's table. So some of the owners have came to me, and I understand both sides of the argument, and I understand that it is difficult to drive back there. And the main reason that the city council decided to shut it down, or it was asked to shut down, was for safety. So cars wouldn't be driving back there. And I've seen a lot of videos from cars just going through the stop sign, going way over the speed limit, and people nearly getting hit. So it totally makes sense. And then, we were asked to move those barricades, but I can't technically I can't just move the barricades whenever I want because I have to follow what the city council gives me direction on. So I'm not opposed to it at all. I just want to make sure that your guys' direction is that it's okay to move them temporarily. Mr. Schrader from Public Works says we can be more than accommodating to move those blocks if and when they're necessary. We're just looking as a city staff to take your direction, and that's kind of the background. Again, the main reason to focus is for safety. That's why it was closed down originally. So I'll open it up to you guys for discussion.
How far back would they have to be moved for him to get access to his door?
Well, you can't get a car in there at all now. If you've actually seen them, it's large. I mean, to have them moved is not a small project. It looks like you're going to need some heavy equipment. And again, unfortunately, it's a situation, as I understand it, it's not going to be able to be all completely moved out of there within a couple of day time frame. So we're hoping to push it back, enough so that we can get some more time to get in and out of there. But to answer your question, I don't know the distance wise, but we were discussing it before coming in here, and we're thinking so that the permanent kind of type gabions that are back there, if that's what you call them, be pushed back so that they're just on the south side of kind of the little walkway between the watering hole and the other business. And so that way you'd still be able to maybe have a temporary wooden gate or something preventing other cars from going on there, but that could then be moved on a as needed basis for when they're trying to get their vehicles in there.
Just out of curiosity, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
That road, that alley, it's one-way traffic traveling north or south?
South.
Okay. So I mean, I kind of like the idea that Doug suggested where we leave the blocks up at the south end, but put a sign up that says authorized vehicles only. That would prevent other people. I know that I've had conversations with several people and we've talked about using pylons, but I think there are a lot of places that we have signs that say authorized vehicles only. So I think that's actually a really good idea to try and use that. It's not a permanent thing. It's just something that we need to do to help get get the things moved out of this facility. So that would be a great idea in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's your decision. Just remember that the main reason, I think one of the arguments is if once people are back there and they think there's not going to be any cars, they're going to be under the assumption of safety. So if there is a car back there, they could be like, oh, there's no cars, there's these things, and all of a sudden a car comes out of nowhere. Not trying to influence your decision, but I think that's one of the things that should be considered.
I don't think
The other thing that we talked about were the pylons.
have we ever had an accident back there, do you know, Dean or Chief?
I actually don't know. I know there have been some close calls,
I've never
but I
heard
don't
one.
know if anybody has. I think the fear is, what if one did happen? That could
Well,
be
what if it could happen anywhere though?
correct.
I wonder if we shouldn't go to, Jill and I discussed this before, to more of a barricade type. They're plastic and you fill them full of water for two reasons. We could slide it back a little bit. They're red and white, and if for some crazy reason the fire department had to get in there, they can literally pull the plug out this time of the year, not in the winter, obviously. But they could pull the plug out, the water could drain, they could literally drag site, because I don't like the idea if we're going to move these whenever he wants us to move them, we're going to send an piece of equipment down there to do it. That's going to be a big hassle.
Or if we just move it back 20 feet, he'd be good, I think, wouldn't you?
And then if somebody runs into them, I went and looked at it. I just think that we're better off putting the lower barricade that nobody can get by. He can slide it to where he wants it to and leave it.
Is this just discussion? Are we allowed to make official action at this for direction, Mr. Johnson?
It's just listed for discussion, so there'd be no official action tonight.
Okay.
We'd have to look back at what the direction was at last council meeting. If we're just defining, if council's decision was just to define the area, then, it doesn't specify the types of barriers that we're going. I know that there were a couple different alternatives specified last time, but I think that was more whether you're going to install something or whether you're going to use a more temporary and movable thing, not the specific kind of barrier that you'd be using.
Yeah, I think this is going to be an issue that for the next 2 months, and then this original zone, I think, will be back to where it would be acceptable to all parties. But for the next 2 months, I think that they would like to be able to get back there, which seems reasonable. I think I would be in favor of moving the south barrier north and give them that space, at least in the interim. And then if we do decide to switch a different type, that's fine.
That's two
north barrier south, right?
North barrier.
No, it's the south barrier going north.
North with it.
And take the south barrier and put it at the end of the water. And the idea, the reason I like that idea is because on their doorway, as people are coming out, it would still be protecting whoever's walking out into the alleyway from a vehicle being able to pull up right to where they're at.
And is 2 months the time frame, or are we just guessing?
Well, the majority of the summer, from what I understand, and I may have to ask my clients here to help me out in that, but my understanding is this is their last summer that it's going to be in the building, doing the ice cream and that kind of thing. And then they have plans for the building to be sold as soon as this summer. But they're going to try to move things out as they can. Again, it's a little bit more of an issue with his health and that kind of thing. So he's hoping to have the majority of the summer.
And I don't remember exactly how our ordinance was written either. Were these seasonal barricades or were they year round?
No, it was from Memorial Day to Labor Day.
That's what I thought. I was like, oh, this is going to take care of itself come September, but yeah.
And Justin can confirm this, but in reality, it's on the agenda for discussion. But if we come to a conclusion of if it's within the area that we specified, and give Joe the authority to move where he thinks is appropriate for all parties, including the cooks, to get in and out, I'm hoping that could get accomplished yet tonight.
Yeah, so we're looking at, or I guess if council has direction, that's fine to provide it. What we can do as staff is after the meeting, we can look at the specific action that was approved at the last meeting, see what we can do within that approval, and then if any change needs to be made, we could bring it back at the next council meeting at that point. But there's likely going to be some flexibility as to what we could do for barricades and things like that.
I do think that it would be important for the city council to give direction as to where you want to see that, just because we have parties on both sides. We have one that wants to leave it as is, and you have one that wants it reduced. That direction should come from council, not from staff, as to where you want that.
Right. Doug, how far does the south one have to go north? Does that got to go to the north end of their building? To the end of the watering hole? Or where?
Well, that was kind of the idea. So it would be at an angle between the watering hole. Is it watering hole 2, right? No,
right.
And then, okay. Then they could get at least a car in there. But that's why we also thought those permanent barricades were there. And if you wanted to still restrict other traffic, you'd have a temporary one to prevent them from kind of maybe even going past the...
I can't imagine anybody with a solid barricade why anybody would drive there unless they're going to park there. They can't get through.
The idea is obviously the safety of the pedestrians, and we completely understand that. Mm-hmm. So I know in the past there's been some concerns over cars that kind of drive fast down that whole alley. However, there's a solid barricade on the north side of, I guess, the walkway is what I guess we'll call it. And then you currently also have one on the south side of the walkway that's a little further down, and that's why we're asking for that one to be moved.
Correct. Yeah, I was looking at it today. It is, in my opinion, it is a very dangerous. When I go through there in the summer and it's full of tourists, I mean, I'm down to 5 mile an hour. I'm for a little kid. There used to be a lemonade stand in that little ticket booth there, and it is dangerous. But one barricade should stop the traffic. So, yeah, I'm okay with whatever you guys think you need.
I just want to clarify. So you're kind of saying you want one here, and one here, so cars can get in here.
Essentially, yeah.
That's the ask, just so everyone knows. I'm just
in the middle.
Jordan, I need you to tell me what you're saying because I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing what you're pointing to. So can you tell me what you're pointing at?
So Susan.
Okay. Yep. There I see it. I see it.
Right here, and then
I can see it.
Oh,
no, one I think more south, and maybe not. Am I inaccurate? I'm just trying to clarify for everyone.
Well, so the idea is we don't have a specific design for it in mind. The idea is just to have it set up so that one, we kind of hit both objectives to be able to protect the public from people crossing there, to prevent cars from going through, but also allowing the cooks and maybe other people that have authorized access to get vehicles in there. And so whether you have 2 permanent barricades or not, one on the north side and one on the south side, and then a temporary one further down just to restrict other cars from getting in there, or whether you remove the permanent barricade is all up to you. That's on the south side of the walkway, I guess is what I'm saying. We just have to have the opportunity to get vehicles in there when it's necessary.
We got another one waiting in line. You want to come up here?
I'm also one of the owners of the Cornerstone 2 there. And we had met earlier, talked about this. I guess if it comes down to safety, what we have out there now looks like a fortress, right? It's it's intimidating.
Yeah, it's not pretty. I'll give you that.
It's not pretty.
Yep.
we've got a bridge out on 38. They don't have a fortress like that before you turn to get down that road. We have a barricade sign that says closed to through traffic, something that you can slide in and out of the way. If our goal is to not let cars through there, why wouldn't that stop them from going through it? If they're going to hit it, they're still going to stop. I mean, like if someone's going to wheel through there, they're going to wheel through there. Like what? I don't think we've ever had an issue with anybody in the years that I've been here 20 years. I've never heard of one incident in that alley. And if it is also a safety thing, you might want to look at it for the whole year. Because if you've been in back there after a Dakota Wesleyan game or a Mitchell Colonel game, it's worse than any tourist time. So, I mean, if it's something that we're only going to do temporarily, like, are we really doing it for the safety? Because after those games, there's people all over the place back there. So, I mean, when we talked, I really thought it would have been less of what it looks like. And I don't see why, like, a temporary one that you could move in and out, that would take care of deliveries. Because if a delivery truck is coming through there, we can send a worker out to move that out of the way, move it back when they're done. I don't see why it has to be 12 concrete blocks that are
14. Yeah.
Okay, my bad.
It's a lot.
I was off. To me, if I'm a tourist, I'm intimidated by that, and I'm probably not going through there, which is hurting business potentially. I can't tell you. I'll be able to tell you that if it stays this way at the end of the year, but hard to tell that now. But so I guess if it's a safety thing, I guess I would want to know why something temporary like that you could. He made the suggestion of the ones that you filled with water at the bottom. I think that's a great idea, because if it had to be moved, it could be trained and moved out of the way and moved back pretty simple. Where these, you have to call somebody that has a forklift. So that would be, I'm just a suggestion. I'm curious on to why we went to the way that we did, rather than one barrier on each side of that place. That would ask people, close to through traffic, something like that, like it is for the bridge and that type of thing. So,
right.
My thoughts.
So the way I remember it before you leave here,
yeah,
and Joe, you correct me if I'm wrong, is we did this to see if it would work, because we were going to put gates, right, and we thought temporary, let's try this, see how it works.
Yep.
Now we know what's not working. So
yeah.
There is a permanent solution.
Yeah, I mean, to me, when I look at it, it doesn't look temporary. Temporary is something I can move on my own, or I can have me and two dudes go and push this thing out of the way and put it back when we're done doing what we're doing. This is potentially, if somebody didn't come, you guys, the city didn't come back and get a forklift in there, that's what you have out there is more permanent than temporary, unless you have the right equipment.
Yeah.
Would there be a problem, Joe, putting two deals like they have down in 30th that say no through traffic? Then it would be easy to move.
I mean, to me, it kind of comes down to the looks of what the businesses want.
They both want different.
Well, no, what I would say,
there's a lot of different things people want.
If you put orange and white things in there, it could potentially looks like it's under construction and deter people. I understand what you're saying by the blocks. I know we wanted to. There's a plan to paint them so it's more inviting. But no, I'm open to suggestions. I'm not a firm stance on one way or the other. The goal is to keep vehicles out of there. In my experiences, whenever you put something temporary or movable, it's like there is nothing there. People, before you know it, it's moving back and forth. They just slide the barricade off to the side.
Well, they have those on 4th Street right now in Maine, and nobody's driven through those and say no through traffic. So they seem to work.
I mean, it's your guys' call. Your decision.
They're easy to move.
We got another business owner, I think, that would like to say something.
Yeah, Jeremy Gunkel here. We have the watering hole in Main Street Mercantile. We originally came to the city because there is a problem. They say there's no incidents yet or in the past, but there's been a lot of close calls. That watering hole is a lot busier business than what was there in the past. There are a lot more kids, a lot more traffic going through there. I do agree with the basketball games. There's traffic there. When I was there last fall remodeling the building, there's not 2 falls ago. Yeah, there's tons of traffic goes there even in wintertime. So now, can we work out something that makes everybody happy? Yeah, we understand that they're moving and this and that. And I do feel that, right now it does look just huge. I mean, we're glad there's something there. But we could work out something to accommodate them while they're moving and still get our goal accomplished, whether it's, a fence, a chain link fence or something that you can easily move back and forth or something. Not a chain link fence, but like a rope or something.
Into our spot, so yeah, no chain link fence.
I didn't mean chain link fence. Like the wrong terminology, like a gate, something like that. So, but where you can easily, unclick it, click it back, and then it's still.
That was the other option. Was just a gate where we could just go whoop and then open it whenever we had to and close it.
Do we have anything like that at the city shop left over? I mean, we're tearing stuff all the time.
So just letting you know, I believe in being accommodating and trying to meet all needs, but already leave the barricades on the north side, and then you move the one barricade closer to our door that's in the middle of there, and then still it doesn't allow traffic, and you don't even have to put any barricades back over there. They can still drive in and back out.
So you're saying like right here?
In this area?
Yeah, right there.
Just one barricade.
Just one.
One on the north, one on the south.
I'll go right around it.
Well, but no, not if you have.
You're leaving the barricades on the north.
Those barricades on the north side the way they are. Well, then they know they can't get through, and you just put one right by the door. That way they can still drive in, and then it's right by the door, so they hit that before they hit a customer. So just like north out. So we're not trying to be against anything. We're trying to be appeasing and try to work with everybody. But I do agree that it should be something that's permanent once we see if it works and everything gets ironed out. So,
yeah. Thank you. We got another one?
I don't own the property.
Can you just state your name before you start so everyone at home knows?
Rich Darrington. Can we back up a slide? The one where it has where the barriers are and the red lines? That's the one I'm looking for. Okay. My thought is they want access to the south side of the building, right? And everybody wants safe travel in between. So where that red line starts with the barriers that Mr. Bathke brought up, you can move them out a little bit and then make a curve to the south side of the building. So therefore, when people come in as they're moving out, they get that natural curvature. It keeps people from going behind it. And then they can still do their offloading. And if people do come in, they can see the exit on the south side there. I think it's a very simple, easy access, and it also takes away the concrete primitive barriers that they mentioned before, and you can redo what you want when it's over with. But just simply making it a curvature so you can still have access for police and fire and everything else, and it will automatically direct traffic.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to echo what Stephanie said. I don't want to be the guy that has to make the decision on what to try to appease both business owners. That's why we said when there was a little bit of discussion outside of here, I'm like, I can't just make a decision based on what people say. So that's why they asked it for it to come back here, and that's why we're here tonight.
And especially if it's changing what council's earlier decision.
Yeah, we're not supposed to be changing council's decision. That's just wrong.
It sounded to me like both parties would be okay with moving the south barricade north. And so that would be my recommendation, is that we move the south barricade up to the watering holes, not to block their entrance or obscure it, but to figure out a way where it still can stop people from getting run into as they walk out of the building and allow them access to the building.
Joe, why is the north barricade so far north? Seems out of place. Seems like it's 20 feet north of the watering hole building.
It's in line with the parking, with the end of the
parking, not the start of it.
Yeah, so then you don't have to go, like if you're driving, then you don't have to back up. You just keep swooping from going south. You know what I mean? You just go like that. So then you don't run into the car.
Right. So the barricades that are there now would be on the north end of that red line, and then on the west edge, just north of the building.
I need the stick back.
We left enough room in there for a wheelchair or a EMS cot to get through there.
So Tim, you're saying the south barricade north?
Yes.
I love the idea.
That's what I was saying.
Got safety, and they can get in the cooks can when they want. And if somebody else drives around those barricades that say you can't drive through here, maybe the right person is right there to light their signs up. Maybe we'll get lucky.
Well, and the north barricade's still going to be there, so if they do drive in, they're going to have nowhere to go.
Correct.
Because they're going to go, and obviously have to slow down because there'll be a barricade, and then see the north barricade and have the awkward backup, I'm somewhere I'm not supposed to be situation.
So as long as that fits within the guidelines of what we originally set out, and that's the majority of the council's direction.
Sounds like satisfies cooks. Sounds
So-
like satisfies companies.
So, does he have reserved parking there then? Otherwise, what if somebody pulls in there and takes his parking spot?
We'll worry about that when we cross that.
Technically, I think that's
Oh
his
God, I
property.
see that happening now. Is that private property? That's private property, though. I would think, right? I don't know either.
And they've got
Sounds
the
like he knows.
opportunity to put up any type of movable barriers that they have, that they can put in. It's their property, so they can put what they want.
Cones up there. On.
Yeah, cones or anything.
There's parking behind there that other people may park in to block.
Everybody loves that.
It might be private property, though.
The spot right behind us is where they're looking to park. It is private property because I think we own right up to the alleyway. So, and we have a signpost that says authorized vehicle only type parking. So there is something there, like in your hopes of restricting people from parking there. But yeah, so it is private property too. It's not part of the parking lot.
And Jason, do you have room for the dumpster or the roll off there then too?
There would be room for that in there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. That would be off the alleyway and everything.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And Justin, you might want to put up some cones, a couple of cones, and that would help people from parking.
If we had a dumpster or something out there, we would have we put cones or something around it just to
keep people from
parking and see it at night with the reflector and stuff on it. So yeah.
Okay. Sounds like we have direction of staff.
Yep.
Okay. Unless anyone else wants to say anything. Okay.
The big thing that hasn't probably been mentioned, I do own the private property behind my building to the alley. And just so make that clear, I probably would be the only person in the whole town that can't get to their personal property. And that's a key.
The council has decided we're going to accommodate and make it so you can park back there.
You can't now.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Back on track. Action to approve request for proposals document for the development of the city-owned properties on First Avenue. I'll start with this, and maybe Stephanie can pull up more of the information. So we went through and we made an RFP. We separated up this area into 3 separate lots. If you can go down to the map for me, please. We'll open it up to people to give us a request for proposal. There's 3 separate spots. You can bid on 1, 2, or all 3 of them. And you give us your best, whatever you think you can do. Inside the proposal, it says we're hoping for the most amount of affordability and the most amount of density. That's kind of what I had come up with because I'd like to see as many units as what is being taken out of their total replaced in that, so we don't lose any of our total housing supply for the entire city of Mitchell. 35 to 40 units. I didn't put that number in there, but that's just what I'd like to see. The more the better. It does say that in there. And then the other thing I put in there that I thought was very important is that it's got to be done in 2 years from council approval, because I think we've all seen real estate projects that didn't get finished ever, and nobody likes to see that. So putting a little teeth into this project would be nice. And a total project turnaround of 3 years from the time we bought it to the time that it gets done would be great for, I think, everyone in the community. So, Ms. Ellen, you have anything else?
Yep, just a couple things to point out. The proposal assumes that there would be a committee established that would review proposals, and then the top proposal for one or all of the locations would go into further discussions to kind of streamline that and make sure it looks the way we want before a developer's agreement is presented to the city council. You can see a proposed timeline there of the RFP being issued on June 9th, with hopefully responses back by August 15th, and then evaluation and interviews, and then a recommendation to council on October 6th. The mayor wanted to see this be as quick as possible so that someone could potentially start construction next year. And like the mayor said, really the guidelines are pretty open because the idea was to leave it open for the most creative and highest and best use of the property without saying it had to be A, B, or C. So they would entertain any proposals, whether it was for rental, owner occupied, or even mixed use, and look at the best use for the space from there.
And as far as the committee goes, if any of the council wants to be on it, Ms. Owen recommended that some of you guys be on there so you all know what's going on. I have a large group of people that reached out to be on the committee as well. I think it'd be interesting to see.
Joe, no appraisal needed? Or, sorry, Justin, no appraisal needed?
For the sale of property, that would be part of the process.
Yeah, I think in there we said, if we can try to recoup all of our cost or some of it, or, if someone's going to build a skyscraper there, I'm guessing we just give them the land. I don't know. But I think if it's, right now, I think the current amount of taxable unit or price is like $875,000. You could build 4 houses and we're going to be in the same taxable bracket. If we can get 20 houses on there, then we'd be doing quite a bit better.
So back to your question too, council member, I do believe that depending on what those final negotiations are with the developer, we could either convey that property through the development corp or another process depending on what we receive. As the mayor said, there is a preference given to anyone who could recoup the city's costs in the purchase of that property to begin with.
Yeah. So the committee will have to decide what's the most important is the affordability of each unit, is the density of every unit, is how much we're going to recoup. All that's going to be, we'll figure out a scoring system when it comes time to committee time to see what makes the most sense.
And we didn't want to specifically have anything spelled out there in case it would limit creativity of the proposal coming in. Somebody may come in with a proposal for a TIF on the area. Somebody might have a different idea. So I think, like the mayor said, the priority would be to the city recouping at least a portion or all of the costs that we had into the property to begin with. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, really didn't. Are we going to get it appraised or not?
Oh, appraised. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be part of the process, Mike.
Okay.
And we as a council, we'd have the final say what happens anyway.
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
So I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. McCardle. Second by Mr. Goldhammer. Any further discussion from the council?
As you think about appointing the committee, I would just make sure that representatives from Ward 2 are on the committee.
Can I do a point of clarification?
I'm going to say that.
An appraisal, I think, is only required if you list it for sale. If we were to do some kind of a transfer through the development corp, it wouldn't necessarily be the same process. Okay. That's what I was trying to say. You do well.
But as council, you could decide to get it appraised if you wanted, right? Yep. So that's always an option. Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? Okay. All those. Wait, are we doing a roll call? Roll call.
Sabers.
Aye.
Goldhammer.
Aye.
Dosher.
Aye.
McCardle.
Aye.
Barrington.
Aye.
Fatke.
Aye.
Charks.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries. Action to approve Resolution R 2025-42, a resolution expressing interest in the construction of the State Correctional Facility in Davison County, South Dakota. Who would like to start this one?
I certainly can, Mr. Mayor. I wrote this as a intent to express interest. I will say that I am just as dubious as probably many citizens of Mitchell about a prison being built here. However, there's a lot of positives that as a city council member, I can't not at least express some interest in learning more about this process. One of the reasons why I thought that this was important to bring tonight is that there is a committee meeting tomorrow in Pierre as regards to the location of this facility. And so being able to address it tonight became that much more apparent to me anyways. And so I think that there's definitely some things that as a community we'd have to figure out. And whether or not the location is decided to come to Mitchell or not, I think it's something to at least be aware of and think about.
Okay.
So I suppose with that, I'll move to approve.
I like it. Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Goldhammer. Second by Mr. Smith. Any further discussion before we open it up to the audience?
Yeah, I do have a question. I just want to make sure this is just us expressing an interest. This is not binding us in any way. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And Susan, to that point, I tried to write it in a way that I hope that we at least get a seat at the table to discuss it, and the prisons then can reach out to us, and we can reach out to them, the Department of Corrections, that is, about potential issues and start to work through those if they do select Mitchell as a site location.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else totally open it up to the public? Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and City Councilors. I'm Dwight Stadler, Ward 4. Proponents of a prison allege that several benefits are in place. How it will bring jobs, income, support home ownership, and local businesses. But what is not presented are the pitfalls. Number one, Sioux Falls has even rejected the prison. They've had enough. Anyone with half a brain should learn from those who have experienced all the pitfalls outnumbering the benefits. Second, Lincoln County said no to having a prison. Wonder why? Maybe it's all those touted benefits they couldn't handle. Third, Mitchell has enough criminals and illegal foreigners without the prison. We don't need more. Fourth, the prison invites other criminals and drug addicts who come visit inmates and worse, stay. In turn, crime goes up, law enforcement officers and judicial branch increases are needed, maybe even a newer and larger courthouse to handle the load. Ultimately, a property tax increase results to support such increases. Fifth, when inmates are released, guess where they go? In Mitchell, of course. They include repeat offenders, murderers, rapists, child molesters, drug traffickers, etc. That should make Mitchell citizens and businesses feel safe and secure, shouldn't it? You think it will help property values? Sixth, when inmates get prosecuted for crimes they commit in prison, does the county pay for the prosecution and public defender? Feel your property taxes going up even more yet? So, seventh, in April, when the city approved $3.48 million for a 10-year purchase agreement for a 160-acre landfill expansion, was that to accommodate the excess waste from the prison or for the prison itself, since 160 acres is needed for the prison? So will Mitchell need more money in their budget? No problem. Just submit an increased budget plan and get property taxes increased. Eighth, can the Mitchell school system handle the increased student population explosion from the 400-plus state-employed correctional officers and their families? Another property tax increase to pay for expansion? Ninth, Mitchell's utility infrastructure can't even handle the 15,000 citizens it has. How will it handle the sudden increase of a prison filled with inmates and state employees living in the city of Mitchell and running the prison? 10th, I've mentioned property tax increases several times. Davidson County is already the 14th highest taxed out of 66 counties. Mitchell, Davidson County, and the school system will need budgetary increases to accommodate the prison and all the pitfalls that come with it. Who's going to suffer? Taxpayers. The bottom line, this is really a bad idea. Davidson County voters should have a say on a ballot vote about this, not arbitrarily decided by a city council or a totalitarian city council. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Would anyone else in the audience like to discuss this?
Scott Studer. Just agree with pretty much everything that was said there. I think one thing that has come up that we're thinking south and east of town, well, the Department of Corrections says we want to be away from I-90, we want to be away from a highway, and we want to be away from a waterway. Well, you just put it in the corner of Jim River, I-90, and Highway 37. Doesn't make sense. So good luck with, trying to get them to go for that, because it's not where they want it.
Would anyone else like to address the audience? Or address the
I think I
council?
need to respond to the gentleman about the landfill, just so it's clarification, because I've had this question. They thought we were trying to pull a fast one, buying that land, and we were buying it for the prison. That is not the case. And if you think in 100 years, we're supposed to need this out 100 years, we're still going to be handling garbage the same way, you're a fool.
No, I didn't think you were trying to pull fast. My question was to clarify, because I really didn't know the answer. I know when I read through.
Yeah, come on up to the audience at home can hear.
I wasn't accusing the city council trying to pull a fast one. What I was trying to do was clarify, because I know in the agenda packet it cited there was 160 acres for a landfill, and it appeared to be at a different location than 160 acres for the prison. But because you had 160 acres involved in it, it's like, what is it? Is it going to be where the prison's going to sit or not? And it's just trying to clarify that point. But I'm adamantly opposed to the prison. I don't think I've met anybody here in Mitchell that does approve of it, other than maybe some of the cronies of the individuals that support it. I don't know. But anyway, I'm not going to take up any more of your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle Studer, and also obviously I wouldn't be in favor of the prison, but I do have a couple of other questions, kind of to build on what Mr. Sadler said. I'm assuming that eventually the city of Mitchell is going to need more police force to accommodate the larger citizenship that we expect to come from it. So there's more taxes. We right now, we live on 258th Street, where somewhere between the city and the county 20 years ago put a housing development of around 40 houses out there, then decided a few years later to put a dump ground within a couple mile radius. And then honestly, what I would consider not clear to the public, all of a sudden there's a soybean plant, and there's land for a soybean plant, and there's a soybean plant there. The highway doesn't have the ability to handle that. They're already working on the highway. I would say the prison traffic is probably going to have to increase that highway work. And also, we can't even get a sheriff out right now on our road to police the speeders and the 18-wheelers that are going up and down that road, clearly going over the speed limit, and would not be able to stop if a kid rode out on a bike or if a dog ran out on the road or what have you. We can't even get a sheriff out there because they say they don't have enough employees. And trust me, more than one resident has talked to the sheriff's office about it. So automatically there's more things you're going to need that you're not really considering. And my other question is, and it's the same with the taxes, Bill Don, you're taking 160 acres out of the tax rolls because I'm assuming that the prison is tax exempt. Where's that money going to come from that helps the township keep up the roads, which are already a huge struggle for townships? Just don't see it as really great planning. And I just kind of feel, as a resident outside or almost out or barely outside of the 3 mile radius that the city has, I feel that we've kind of been abused and taken advantage of. And there are other areas. I drive around Mitchell, the area. There are other areas that there's 160 acres of ground, but nobody wants it there either. There's areas out by the lake where there's enough ground out there, but nothing that's not considered. Like my husband said, you're planning on putting it right in the trifecta of where the Department of Corrections doesn't even want it. The highway, the river, and the interstate. They don't want it near those because those make for easy escape routes. And you're inviting more. I mean, every day there's another riot in the prison. There's more protesting outside of the prison. I just don't see it as bringing in positive people to your community. And I know that the goal is to grow the community. I'm not against that whatsoever. There's already a housing shortage. There's already employee shortage. Yes, sure, some people may move to Mitchell for those jobs, But I think the hope is to grow a lot of those jobs from Mitchell. So you're going to cause more employee shortage from businesses that are already here and potentially have businesses closing. So thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Just do a follow-up.
A quick follow-up, please.
One of the things is about your children and grandchildren, and I mentioned about the release of criminals into our inmates into the Mitchell area. How do you feel about your children and grandchildren? You're going to think they're going to be safe? I suspect not.
If I can address that, I'm not trying to cut you off or anything, but part of the so I'm going to address a few of those. I don't want to be combative, but I know you brought up a lot of topics, and I think I sat in a lot of these meetings where they kind of explained to us everything. As far as releasing prisoners, they're going to get paroled back to where they either got arrested originally or where they were tried, or into the larger cities. So that's part of the thing, is they're not going to just open the doors and come back to Mitchell. Now, I mean, we don't have a certified document that says no prisoners are going to be released into Mitchell, so I'm not trying to sway in either way, but that's what they said, is they're going to release them back to where they were arrested originally.
So, but those that were prosecuted here are going to be released back to here. So,
yeah, for sure. Yep.
And there may be others that were out of town prosecuted here. Whatever.
Yeah, I remember Paulton Tenhagen from Sioux Falls telling me that there's a state law. If you get wherever you get tried, you're supposed to go back. The prison system is supposed to take you back to where you got tried.
And I don't know if you're aware of two recent incidents in the Sioux Falls Penitentiary, but I didn't get a chance to read the second one. But apparently there was a real brouhaha going on in the prison, and created quite some injuries and whatnot. And that spills over into society, and then we end up with protests about prison and everything else. And then the other one was drug smuggling ring crushed within the Sioux Falls Penitentiary. If there's drug smuggling going on, I mean, it's what I said before. We're inviting more criminals into the area, and we really don't want that. I apologize. I don't want to be taking up a lot of your time because you got a long agenda. But thank you anyway for listening.
And there's just a few points. Again, I'm not trying to sway anyone. I just want to make sure everyone knows the information that I have, because this is the people's table. One, for police, they're talking about increasing police. If we have 400 new people that move to town, that's going to be 400 new homes, 400 new people paying taxes. We're only going to raise whatever. I mean, we're not going to have to raise it because you have those people paying into the system as well. That's what's going to balance that out. Those roads over there, the prison has said they would improve those roads over there. Not like the gravel roads. A couple of those roads would get either asphalt or they'd get paved. And then the other big thing, again, I'm not trying to sway anyone's vote. I just want to give everyone the information. Rehab is like one of the biggest things they're spending their money on, because currently not everyone can. If someone gets arrested, there's no capacity for people to go to the state penitentiary because they're at like 170% occupied. They're over full. So I think the reason they're looking at building this is so that they can actually send people that need to go there. And a large portion of the money that they're putting into wherever this goes is going to be for rehab and rehabilitation. So once they're there, they're not piled in a small cell with 2 or 3 other people. They're going to have more space, more counseling. And I don't know that it's going to work or whatever, but I'm just explaining the information that we have been told, just so everyone has all the information, since this is a good time to explain it. So I just want to give you an update.
Well, you've got nicer feelings about the inmates than I do.
Well, I'm trying to give a balanced approach.
And I will say that one of the things that this authorizes the mayor to do is work with stakeholders, and certainly the citizens of Mitchell is a group of stakeholders that I would be very concerned about their opinion on this. And so working through those challenges and trying to figure out how we address them to best set. This isn't going to be open overnight. We're talking 3 to 4 years at the minimum of construction time to build and design this prison. But for me, the ideas of negative, it's not necessarily, 90-10, but it is, for me, the positives outweigh the negatives at this point, I feel like.
And Tim, this is your document more obviously to let the state know that we're interested in just listening to questions, not just for us as council, but also for the community. And it's just more of just getting that opportunity. This is not signing the yes on it. It's not doing any kind of approval. It's the fact that we would like to have any kind of information about the prison. And as some of these people stated about where the state does not want the Department of Corrections, if that is the case, then tomorrow we won't be on the docket anymore.
Correct.
Yeah, real quick before you go, Mike, I do want to make sure I stated this in a few places. Whatever happens, I just don't like to see our town divided on anything. Right at this point, we're just having discussion, and I understand that for people that live out there, it's definitely more impactful. And us townsfolk aren't trying to put this on the country folk. This is just kind of happening. So whatever happens, let's just not get too divided. That's all.
Sounds like a lot of people got a lot of questions, which obviously everybody does, let alone myself sitting here. And it sounds like the literature that is drawn up is exactly that, to get some of our questions answered. And that's it. That's all it is.
That's correct.
It's fill in some blanks, and it sounds like the community wants those answers.
Good evening, Mike Lorton with the Mitchell Chamber and Development Corporation. I urge your support for this resolution. This will bring 441 new jobs to our community with an annual payroll of $36.7 million, average salaries between $25 and $30 an hour. The annual operating budget for this new prison will be $55 million a year. Every 2 years, it's $100 million back into our community. It goes into our businesses, it's new houses, new retail for recruiting additional businesses. Takes, what's that? Builds rental homes. When you talk about the 3 to 4 years to build this, we have the second lowest unemployment in the state right now. If it's going to take us 3 to 4 years to build this, it gives us time to plan for that. We're doubling our water capacity, tripling our sewer capacity. We're in a good position to recruit this prison. I appreciate what Mayor Hansen said with not getting into too deep of a fight yet. We don't know if the prison's coming. And so I started this process, and I don't want to divide the community because it's so unknown right now. Tomorrow is going to answer more questions. If you have more questions, I'm happy to attempt to field them and give them to the governor's office. The governor's office has done a good job of responding to our questions. The counselors have had questions for me. I've submitted those to the governor's office. They're very responsive to answer those questions. The thing I would say, other communities have been fighting this. I've used Yankton as an example. They have a prison down there. Springfield has a prison. Sioux Falls has the prison right now. We still go there. We still shop. We still spend money in those communities, visit those communities. We have an opportunity in front of us. And if we have a unified leadership group with the city council, the county commission, other leaders in the community, we have an opportunity to actually recruit the prison to come to Mitchell. It's almost almost $1 billion build. I'm used to saying $500 million for the soybean plant. This one's almost $1 billion of new building that's coming into our community. Before we say no right away, I urge the community and the city councilors to kind of hit pause and really think deeply about the amount of employees that this brings in. These are state jobs with state retirement, state benefits that come into our community. Every 3 years, it's $100 million just in payroll that will be spent here in Mitchell. Yeah, they'll spend it around other communities, but they'll spend a lot of that money right here in Mitchell. My job is to help this community grow. We have an opportunity in front of us to grow this community for our businesses, for our housing developments. Everybody wants to see growth. We have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity in front of us to recruit this prison. I urge the council support on this. I know it's something that's tough. I know there's a lot of unanswered questions out there. I'm happy to try and field those. I'm not an expert in prisons, but the governor's office will share a lot of information with us. However, I would again say, let's not get too heated tonight. Tomorrow is going to answer more questions. If we're eliminated, we fight for nothing. We divide this community for nothing. I would urge us to just hit pause until after tomorrow to see what happens at that hearing and to answer more questions.
Will we know if we're eliminated tomorrow?
It's unknown. Their first meeting was to agree that they needed to build a new prison. The mayor was in some of our meetings with the governor's office. Shawshank Redemption, the prison that was filmed in, was built in 1920. Our prison was built in 1881. That prison became a museum in the 90s, and that's the reason they filmed it there. Our prison is way past its life expectancy. And so the first meeting that the prison commission had was for them to get together to decide whether or not they needed to build a new prison. They unanimously said, yes, it's time to build a new prison. The next meeting is to either select a site, which that will happen tomorrow. They'll either select a site or select multiple sites that they want to move forward with. And then I believe July 8th will be the final meeting for this commission. And then July 22nd will be a special session of the legislature where the final say will rest with the full legislature getting together on July 22nd for a special session to vote yes or no whether or not to approve the prison. Lots of unknowns. And I'm sorry I don't have more answers for the community, but this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for us. And so I urge your support.
Marty, you look like you want to say something.
Just once again, I just want everybody to know, just for informational purposes, all this approval is not endorsing that we want to hear.
Yeah, and also this isn't in Mitchell and it's not in our ETJ, so really we have no say of what actually happens at the end of the day. This is just kind of like, hey, we want more information so we know what's going on.
Thank you, Mayor Steve Simpson here. I'm going to address the resolution that you are going to be voting on directly. As you know, Mayor, I like to read.
You're a great reader.
The first whereas states that City of Mitchell recognized the growing need for correctional infrastructure due to the increase in demands. And as a state, I believe we should be looking at what's causing that increase and work on ways to reverse that trend instead of just building more space for people who don't behave. The second whereas talks about the creation of stable and well-paying jobs and significant economic opportunities. So what we're doing is instead of addressing the problem of more and more people misbehaving in society and we need to lock them up, we should be fixing that. Instead, we're looking at this as an opportunity to make money. And as far as the stable, well-paying jobs go, these jobs are coming from Sioux Falls primarily. We're moving jobs from one place to here. That's not creating jobs for the state of South Dakota. It's just moving people around, okay? The third whereas says that Mitchell is a strategic location and has a strong workforce. Well, I thought the reason why we're building all these houses is because we don't have enough of a workforce here. And now you're stating in this resolution that we have a strong workforce, that we have 400 people that need jobs here. I know that there's relocation. Again, that addresses my previous point. We're relocating labor. We're not creating anything. It's not economic development. The last whereas talks about challenges through open dialogue, careful planning, and engagement with residents to ensure that concerns are heard. And that's not what's happening here. I read about this thing just a couple weeks ago. A nonprofit corporation throws the city of Mitchell's hat in the ring, and we're just finding out that our hat is in the ring. I just watched the news before coming here tonight, and Mitchell is one of the locations being considered tomorrow morning in Pier. And we're just getting around to talking about that tonight. That's not open dialogue. We're not addressing this thing in an open manner soon enough. This thing's going to be decided in July. Where is there going to be time for the pushback? People are just finding out about it now. So that's a problem I have with the resolution. I appreciate the efforts to grow Mitchell. I like it to be more organic instead of planned in a room of city leaders. The people need to be involved. And the best way that we can be involved in the economic growth of the city is with our dollars by spending them. And the more we lose in taxes, the less power we have to determine the economic policy of our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else in the audience? And with that, is there any further discussion from the council before we roll call? I will just say one thing. I know there's been a lot of support for the prison so far that not everyone likes. I would just like to see this kind of support for any other business that people do want to see come here in the future, because if we did that, we'd be on the right path. So with that, let's do a roll call.
Dozier.
Aye.
Picardo.
Aye.
Barrington.
Aye.
Bathke.
Aye.
Charks.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Savers.
Aye.
Goldhammer.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, action to approve resolution R 2025-43, surplus of trailers at the 1200 block of East First Avenue. Mr. Johnson.
All right. So, as the staff report states, excuse me. As the staff report states, there were three trailers approved for surplus at the last council meeting. The three trailers listed would be, can you go back up just a hair?
Oh, this isn't yours.
Oh, sorry about that.
I've just pulled up the list.
I don't put those in the staff report.
I think it was 11, 12, and 27.
Yep. So 11, 12, and 27 were previously approved for surplus. 37 was not previously approved for surplus. So the three that were on the last agenda will be, instead of potentially going to MADC or being disposed of, those will be set for auction, as would the new trailer that was not previously surplused. Again, the auction would happen similarly to the one that we just approved last meeting for the structure, where no interest in the property is going to arise. It's just going to be to go in, purchase the mobile home unit, and haul it off the site.
Yep, and just to clarify, so there'll be 4 trailers, and I think we're going to have an auction. I'm going to do my first auction June 25th. So we're going to see if some people get some of these homes.
If you
There's
want
4
to go
of
back
them.
to this map, Stephanie, the 4 that will be on there would be lots 11, 12, 27, and 37. So they're all within that same block.
And just for information for everyone at home and around here is Purple Wave, they're our auction company that we work with, already looked at them and deemed they have no value at all, and they wouldn't even list them. So I'm going to give it a shot and see if we can at least get a little bit of money out of those, because those are the best 4 that I've seen out of all the other ones.
I'll make a motion to approve the 4 surplus trailers.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ricardo, second by Mr. Goldhammer. Further discussion? Anyone in the audience like to discuss this?
I do have a question. Can you hear me? I just, there was a nice, there was an article, I should say, in the front page of the paper about the people being displaced, Mayor. Can you talk to us a little bit about where we're at with the people who don't have a place at the present time to go?
Yep. So we're working with a few people, that person being one of them. We've had a few different options. She's struggling to find a place. So everyone's situations are a little different and difficult, but I just talked to her this morning or texted her today, and then we text quite often, and she's in a tougher situation, so I'm trying my best. I know I've talked to several of the other trailer parks, and they'd be willing to take some of the trailers if they're good enough condition, but most other parks don't want any of these trailers at all because they just don't think they're good enough for their park. So we're running into a very tough situation. That's why I'm trying, and they said they'd be open to matching the lease and matching the rent, and I actually offered some of these people to move their trailers, and they said their trailers aren't even good enough to try to move or live in continuously, so they know they're in rough shape. I'm working on this constantly. It is a very difficult thing to go through, but I think 3 or 4 people have moved out. We've returned some of the deposits. I know we are going to move one trailer to a different park. One trailer has already been moved to Letcher. So we're working through it. It's tough. We've only owned the thing for not even 30 days yet, so it's a big deal. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Those 4 trailers that we just approved to sell at an auction, are any of those movable?
They are, but I showed some of the other trailer park owners, and they don't want them.
So no.
So, well, I'm hoping someone else would like to purchase them. I didn't show everyone, so this is going to be the fair chance for the public to take a look at it. But as of right now, but I don't know. Like other ones that people are maybe occupying right now, maybe in better shape. You know what I mean? But obviously, the ones that are all empty. When we purchased the park, 14 trailers were empty, and there's a reason for that. I just talked to the guy that did the maintenance on the building, and he said they've been empty a long time. They couldn't be remodeled. They were just in too rough a shape. It didn't make sense financially. So that's why we started turning them down. Hopefully we can make some of these things work. Miss Owen has a nice list of all the people that are planning on moving. And I think there's 4 or 5 people that already have some sort of arrangements made. So we're on the right track, but for 27 days into the deal, I think we're doing pretty good, but not great. But it's tough. Does that answer your question, Susan?
Yeah, thank you so much for that update.
Yep. Okay, roll call.
Barrington.
Aye.
Batsky.
Aye.
Charks.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Goldhammer.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Motion carries. Action to approve resolution R 2025-44, plot of North Windsor Street. And the rest is shown in the agenda. Mr. Jenigas.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Planning Commission recommended approval of this unanimously. This is the area that was previously vacated, that they'll be using that area for green space. And when they did that, they said that they'd be putting in a cul-de-sac for Windsor Street for turnaround for the neighbors to the south, but also for emergency personnel to make that turnaround. So that will be public right away if this gets approved. I can answer any questions that you have for me.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer. Second by Mr. Barrington. Any further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? Okay, roll call.
Charks.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Goldhammer.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle. Barrington.
Aye.
Batsky.
Motion carries. Action to approve resolution R 2025-45, plot of Lot A in Track 1, Wild Oak Golf Club Edition. Mr. Jenigas.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Planning Commission recommended approval of this unanimously. This goes along with the sale of the golf course. There is a piece of tract I that separates some of the existing dwellings in that location, and tract I actually continues further down to the south as well. So they're splitting off where the cart path is at to sell that with the golf course. That way they have their own golf path to get to existing hole number 2 right now. The path isn't exactly covering this whole track. There are some easements that go with where the track is that was previously built. They're not moving the cart path at all. It's just they get the land that has for that track, and then also the easements that go with it. Can answer any questions that you have.
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. Sabers.
Second.
Second by Mr. Goldhammer. Further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? Okay, roll call.
Sabers.
Aye.
Goldhammer.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle. Barrington.
Aye.
Batsky.
Aye.
Charks.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries. Second reading on ordinance O 2025-05, establishing term limits for mayor and city council. Mr. Johnson.
All right, so nothing new on this one tonight. As council likely remembers, at first reading, they selected the option to proceed with the alternative that would not count any current or past terms towards the cap on consecutive terms. Otherwise, the ordinance remains the same, establishes those 3 consecutive full terms as the cap, and then provides some conditions for how those are processed. So with that, we can open it up back up for questions.
I'll make a motion to approve, but I'm going to vote against it.
Got a motion by Mr. McCardle.
I'm also not going to support it, but I'll second that.
We got a second, which opens us up for more discussion.
And I'm going to start out with saying, obviously, been on the council a long time, but when we were discussing last meeting, Danny Allen's name was brought up. That he's a icon or a legend, and that's the reason why nobody would run against Danny. Well, I've got a differing opinion why nobody ran against Danny Allen. And it wasn't because he was an incumbent. It was because he was the best candidate. Danny Allen ran probably one of the most successful businesses in Mitchell. Well respected, got along with the farmers, the ag-related people in town. He was born and raised in Mitchell. And and he had the full package, and he decided that he wanted to run for city council, and obviously won. And he not only ran in one ward, but then he moved, sat out a few months, and was elected again with a different ward. And it was because Danny Allen for 17 years represented the people in Mitchell very well. And if we put this ordinance in place, the Danny Allens of the future are going to be limited. He's a great husband, he's a father, grandfather, and he's extremely successful. And in fact, I would put him as one of the best, if not the best council members that I have ever known. And so that's part of the reason why I'm going to say I'm going to vote against this, because how can we limit somebody like Danny Allen of saying, I'm not, if you want to vote me out, great, but in reality, I'm going to serve until I think I'm effective.
Well, you might get a chance to vote him back in, because I talked to him today, and I think it's still in his blood a little bit.
Well, I was opposed to term limits, and I still am. I figured let the voters decide. There was discussion during this thing that, we should have younger folks serving on council, and I just wanted known that I'm prematurely gray.
Well, just for the record, I did hear, not from Danny directly, and I wasn't taking a dig at him. I hope he didn't take it that way. But he actually kind of liked the nickname I gave him, the Legend. And I'll say it again, I never would have ran against the guy. And I'm just going to say it now, too. There will be a public vote, because I'm going to pass the petition. I've committed to it. I haven't had anybody reach out to me and say, don't do it. Everybody that I've talked to says, it's time. We have term limits in the state house, state senate, president. We get qualified candidates. I feel like you guys don't think that there's smart enough people in our community.
That
really bothers me. No, don't interrupt me, Kevin, because you love to do that. And it's rude.
Sorry about that, Mike.
And it's baffling to me that you guys think it's a bad thing. And I fully expected this, that this is exactly how it would go. And it goes back to what I said the other day. A lot of things are predetermined, folks, when you come in here. I guarantee you that you two have talked. And that's fine. It's not illegal. It's a good thing. But it's predetermined. Kevin jumps in, someone jumps in a second. And the reason I do it is because he asked me to do it once. And I did it. That's a sucker. Think for yourself. Think for your constituents and listen to them, not to just the 8 people here.
I have not had one person, the amount of years that I've been involved in council, ever say, will you please vote in term limits? Please.
That's not what I'm talking about, term limits.
Well, that's what's on the agenda.
It was never on here because I brought that.
And Danny Allen told me anybody approached him about term limits.
That's fine. I'm doing what the people want to do. And we'll see. We all should want better.
Well, we're in charge of running a $84 million business at the city. And I don't know anybody, Vera, Muth Electric, Cromer's, Trail King, after 9 years of somebody who's doing well in their business, that they say, well, thank you for the 9 years. We're going to kick you out the door and get somebody else to replace you. I've never heard of that before, ever. And I did some homework. Brookings, Pierre, Rapid City, Spearfish, Brandon Valley, Harrisburg, T, Watertown, Madison. The only town I see that has term limits is Sioux Falls. No other town has term limits besides Sioux Falls. They're 2 4-year terms. Why do we want to? I just don't get it. It's mind baffling.
I will like one quick, please. I'm not comparing us to any city. Let's be Mitchell. Let's be Mitchell. Let's be the trendsetter. Let people have a chance. That's all I'm saying.
Let's do what we've done for years. Let the voters decide.
We're going to, Kevin.
Let's do it then.
We got a couple people that look ready to say something.
So, Justin or Stephanie, I think I remember seeing it, obviously me and Doc got it as president and vice president. Out of the municipalities throughout the state of South Dakota, how many of them actually have term limits in place? Was it just state, was Sioux Falls again? Remind me.
I just listed 10, and
So I was asked by council members to research this, and I did send it out to all of you in an update. I just want to make sure
I
that's
remember seeing it
clear. Aberdeen, Box Elder, Brandon, Brookings, Harrisburg, Madison, Pierre, Rapid City, Spearfish, T, Vermilion, Watertown, and Yankton did not have term limits, and Sioux Falls did. And as McCardle said, it was 2 4-year terms.
Yeah. So I'd like to
want to make sure I said
real quick. I'd like to address that. So I listen to a lot of advertising and marketing books, and they always say the first person to do something is always the most successful. Any copycat that comes after that is nowhere near successful. So my opinion is this is the same thing. People ask me all the time, why is there not term limits? And it's not about keeping bad people out. It's about giving an opportunity for someone else to grow. And if we're going to try to copy other cities forever, we might as well just take all this stuff to their city councils and let them decide. Why can't we just make up the decision for ourselves and just, what you said you didn't like it? What does your constituents say? Have you asked them?
I've never had anybody ask me about term limits ever.
And no one said yes.
Well,
wow.
You know, the one thing I look at from my perspective, obviously, I'm one of those long-term, seven terms elected. And I think 5 of my election, I ran opposed, had a couple in one of them and had 5 of them. And obviously, I've been sitting here since then, so that means I've won them all. And my latest one, obviously, against your wife, Mike, and obviously was one of the best elections that I've seen. I called up Pam afterwards on her inspiration of what she did and how she ran her election was one of the best I've ever seen. And she's a great candidate for a position up here sometime. There's no doubt about it. But the biggest thing is about it, the people of Ward 3, in my mind, had the option to vote either way, and not just with Pam's election, but my other ones, and I had other ones with me. They had the option to choose either one of us. They chose me for some reason. I'm not going to toot the horn or anything like that, but they chose me. I'm still sitting here. And every term when it comes up, it's up to my ward to define, do they want Marty Barrington sitting here representing, or do they not? Because when they go to the polls, they have the right to click any little button they want. So I keep that in mind as in term limits, you're exactly right. Locking people out that might be great at this table that are sitting here and have been a lot of people that are great at this table sitting here that continue to want to do that. And all of a sudden, if we term them out, they're termed out for the wrong reason. You should get voted out of the seat if you want to, not just because you walk back in it. Term limits keep you out. The public can vote you out, and they have that right to do that every election we have. And that's why I'm obviously not going to be in favor of this. I think it would be an oxymoron if I was sitting here for 17 or 18 years and soon to be 21, and then we'll see where it goes after that. But the biggest point, I guess, the people have that vote every time they walk in that poll on who they want to represent this seat or any of these seats sitting here in the city council for Mitchell. So
I can't sit there and just let that go by. Marty, they chose you because...
Can you state your name real quick?
Okay, my name is Pam Bathke. So they chose you because you are the incumbent name, and that incumbent has an inherent advantage every time.
And Pam, I figured you'd come on up here, so I'm glad you did. With that being said, I'd like to point out in 2006, I ran against the president of the city council and an incumbent. The president of the council, an incumbent for, I can't remember how many years he sat here, about 12. And I believe I beat him 77 to 23%. So does the incumbents have an advantage? Paper does not prove that.
Yeah, there's only 3 people up here that beat an incumbent. You, me, and Jeff. And both in the same year.
So I guess I asked the ones that have been on here, what haven't you got done in 20 years that you could see doing in the next 9 years?
Is that relevant?
He's addressing the council.
Every year there's something that comes up that's different. We had no idea we were even going to be discussing prisons. But what we want for the betterment of the community And in my mind is I thought we would like to try to get a solution for the Corn Palace, and that's why I ran one more time.
I can appreciate that, but I think we've been paying Robin for almost 20 years. He didn't get it done. We didn't close the deal. I want someone who's going to close the deal, and I just feel like the people will understand this when we get the word out that it's not, if nothing changes, nothing changes. I mean, it's just proven fact.
And I would like to ask the question: what did we do wrong during these time periods?
I just said you haven't done anything wrong. It's not what I'm saying, and I've said that last week. Nobody's done anything wrong here. I think we have a really good working group. We really do.
And why change it?
That's what the people are asking us, I guess.
I've never had a person ask me that. And Jeff says he hasn't. John says he hasn't. Have you, Dan?
Well, I was campaigning. Now, during this, I had one person that reached out to me by the cell phone. But campaigning, I've never had anybody approach me. Dan, have you?
I have more people tell you thank you for doing the job than.
Yeah, I agree, they do. But campaigning, this wasn't on anybody's mind, I don't think, about the term limits.
Well, they could have voted me out.
I'm going to stand by the fact that we have a mayor who beat an incumbent. He's young. He meets all of those criteria. The people voted him in. So obviously, people have the ability to vote against an incumbent. I mean, that is the bottom line. The people need to have the vote.
And I'm going to say one thing about being an incumbent this last time. My opponent, Don Everson, went out and told knocked on every door and said, the guy I'm running against is going to double your water rates. Did he tell the truth? He did. But did he tell the whole story? No. Mitchell's out of water. We had some tough decisions to make. And we went forth and we made some very good decisions. But that one vote almost cost me the seat because he didn't tell all the facts, just part of them. And so being incumbent, one vote can cost you that person. So I don't see where it's an advantage.
I think the advantage is, I mean, my name's been in the newspaper hundreds of times since I was elected. And people just know, you know what I mean? They go with what's familiar. And I'm not arguing either way, but I'm just saying this is what people say is, man, I know this guy. You're going to pick someone you know, even if they've made a couple of bad decisions versus someone you completely don't know. You know what I mean? So I think that's where the incumbent advantage comes from. So we got a motion and a second. It looks like you want to come up here from the audience.
I do.
Let's open it up for audience discussion.
Again, I'm Dwight Stadler, Ward 4. I support the term limits. Having the city council vote on term limits is like fox guarding the hen house. Voters should decide on that. And I heard that nobody's asked you anything. Just curiosity. By a show of hands, how many in here would support term limits? I'm just curious. So that's about half. So now you've heard from some people, okay? Don't tell me you haven't heard from anybody, and you've heard from me. So by the time I'm finished, your feelings might be hurt, and I'll be hated, and you'll probably want to tar and feather me and hang me from the highest tree. But that's okay, I can deal with that. But someone has to tell the king he's not wearing any clothes. Version 1 of your proposed term limits ordinance, as I understand it, cited that term limits applied to past and present councilors and mayors. But my interpretation is the greed in you wanting to hold on to your positions come hell or high water exempted past and present councilors and mayors from term limits in your version 2. Your job is not meant to be a career, okay? I lived in Mitchell since July 31, 2018, except for the mayor and maybe a couple of councilors. You're all the same faces, and you've made a lot of decisions that I believe adversely affects the taxpayers. And I think the worst idiotic decision you made was the mask mandate. That was totally stupid. I haven't met anyone yet, other than maybe your cronies, that has anything positive to say about the city council. The most common description I've heard is the good old boy network. That's sad perception of our city government. However, if I'm truly honest with myself, I blame conservatives and voters for this situation. Conservatives, especially young, talented, and intelligent ones, are not stepping up to the plate to run for office. I think one of you alluded to people aren't stepping up or people aren't running for office or something to that effect. And voters keep voting the same good old boy network into office. If you want to call yourselves that, I don't think you do. And quite frankly, I think we need a local Doge team to look at not just the city council, but the school board and the county commission too. But now that I've infuriated you and hurt your feelings and you want to hang me from the highest tree and tar and feather me and all that stuff, the bottom line is there should be term limits applied to all, including past and present councilors and mayors. No exemptions, no exceptions. Experience is a double-edged sword. It is only good when an individual in the group is truly objective and honest. When they become arrogant and begin to assume they are superior to others, only disastrous limited thinking and actions occur, including totalitarianism. This is proven throughout history. Look no further than the previous 4 years in D.C. Therefore, if you won't let citizens decide, then rescind the version 2 of your term limits or amend it and go with version 1. It applies to all past and present councilors and mayors. I'm afraid to ask what you think those term limits should be. I believe you have lost the objectivity to make such a decision for yourselves. I think the voters should be deciding on the term limits issue. If you have any objectivity, you should know your time is done. And to conservatives out there listening, step up to the plate. Run for office. And to voters, as the cliche goes, the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and over, expecting different results. And why don't I run while I'm standing here running my mouth? I'm 72 years old and I've already had one heart attack. And if I had to put up with the bullshit that goes on here, I'd probably die soon.
No swearing.
Thank you.
No swearing for you either.
I don't plan on cursing. Good evening, Council Mayor. My name is Stuart Hansen. I wanted to come up here tonight to talk about term limits. The first thing I wanted to say was how disappointed I was when you, Mrs. Charks, brought up the H name at the last meeting. As a veteran, I was appalled that you brought up that name, as I know other veterans were as well. Also, I noticed only one council member showed disgust at you bringing up the H name as an example. So for that, I have much respect for you, Mr. Bathke. What you could have said, Mrs. Charks, was, what if the worst person in the world would have run for council when someone was term limited out? Mrs. Charks, you must not have too much confidence in our community for you to say something like that. I would certainly think that someone from that ward would step up to the plate and run against that person and should garner more votes. Now, if that person really didn't want to be on the council after winning, they could resign. Then the mayor could appoint someone, and if the council approves, we'd have a new council member. Mrs. Charks, you said you're not in favor of putting a bunch of new people on the council with no experience. How much experience did any of you council members have when you were first voted in for your first term? And if I'm not mistaken, I believe you, Mrs. Charks, were appointed to your first term. I keep hearing that, oh, someone's not experienced enough or they're not qualified. I'm not aware of any committee that decides if somebody is experienced enough or they're not qualified. I think the only ones that decide that are the voters. I'll bet you $1 to a donut that 99% of you sitting up here said that the mayor wasn't experienced or qualified to be the new mayor. But the voters disagreed with you because there he is. When Mr. Music brought up the fact that 95% of the people on the mayor's Facebook page were in favor of term limits, you, Mrs. Chark, said that his Facebook page was a really small percentage of our community. I think if you asked the mayor what strategy worked that helped him win the mayor position, he would say it was Facebook and all of his followers. Yep, Facebook. Something you, Mrs. Chark, said was a really small percentage of our community. Yet, it was a big enough percentage of our community to get him elected. I do agree with Mr. Music when he says incumbents have a huge advantage in elections. Why? Because an incumbent has had years of their name being mentioned, being interviewed for the newspaper, the news, and even public service announcements. So when an election rolls around, a lot of people vote for the incumbent because that's the name they recognize. How many of you council members have spent thousands of dollars on yard signs or advertising to get reelected? I would say none. Why? Because you had name recognition. Out of the three mayoral candidates, 2 who were new, how many of them spent thousands of dollars to try and get elected?
2 of them. Why? Because they didn't have name recognition, so they had to spend all that money to get their names out there. Don't you think that's a good reason why you don't see new people running for council? They can't afford it. And maybe it's not just because they may not have the time, as Mrs. Chark suggested. I agree with Mr. Jennings when he said, don't just limit new council members to the young people. New people and young and old should be able to run. But I will say, an old person like me, and I am old, has a way different opinion than the younger generation, including the mayor. I love Mitchell just the way it is. Less people, less traffic. But it needs to be about what the younger generation wants. After all, it's the younger generation and their kids who would be paying for the decisions that the council members make. And this is the last thing I'd like to say about term limits. When the council voted at the last meeting, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Mrs. Charks, Mrs. Goldhammer, or Mr. Goldhammer, and Mr. Dosher voted for no term limits, meaning they could serve on the council forever. Mr. McCardle, Mr. Smith, and Mr. Barrington, and Mr. Sabers voted for term limits, but it wouldn't include previous or current terms. So Mr. McCardle could serve a total of 19 years before he's term limited out. Mr. Smith could serve 30 years on the council before he's term limited out. Mr. Barrington could serve 30 years before he's term limited out, and Mr. Sabers could serve 18 years on the council before he was term limited out. Mr. Bathke voted for term limits that would include previous and current terms, which means he could only serve 9 years on the council before he's term limited out. What I'd like to ask Mr. McCardle, Mr. Smith, Mr. Barrington, and Mr. Sabers is, why is it okay for you to serve between 18 to 30 years on the council before your term limited out, yet the people serving on the council after you can only serve 9 consecutive years? Thank you.
I'll address the last point. I think, and I'm going to say thanks to you guys for at least passing the first reading so we could, what Mr. Smith said was the reason they passed it so we could at least have more discussion and listen to the constituents. So I do appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. So thanks for not killing it. And unless anyone else in the audience has anything else to say, I'd like to put a nice little happy little bow on the end of this and say thanks to the guys that have served for a long time. You know, it's nothing personal. It's our constituents must have different groups of people. It's nothing to target you guys. I tell a lot of people the stuff you guys have done have made it really easy for me with the new water source and the new sewer, and thankfully I don't have to deal with the lake either. I mean, it's all done now. So I mean, what you've done in the past has been good and impactful. It's just, this is what I am hearing from my constituents. It must be what Mike's hearing as well. So I want to thank you, and I want to be all I want to end this with a little happy note, like I was saying.
Yeah.
So.
You know, once again, one of the biggest reasons why I supported the first reading is exactly what you said, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to give my constituents an opportunity to text me, call me, email me, or whatever it is why we support a lot of first readings and then a second reading based on what we heard from our citizens, and we go from there and make we believe the best vote we can for those that we represent. So that is one of the reasons. And then I think in part of your dad's speech there, I heard him say that he doesn't want more people. He likes lower. I can't remember how he worded it.
Yeah,
but it doesn't sound like he supports your 20,000 population.
That is correct.
Okay.
I was also
you're not on the same page.
I was also going to say I've never been yelled at more job, any other job. I've never been yelled at more doing this job than other than having Thanksgiving with my dad. So, yeah. We do not agree on hardly anything. So,
I think you got a positive going for you.
Okay. Unless anyone else in the audience would like to speak on this, we'll do a roll call. We have a motion and a second, so let's do a roll call.
Can I just ask, this is a motion and a second to deny?
To deny.
Okay, thank you.
That's correct.
Oh, it was two.
Oh, yeah. They approved. The motion is to approve it, but they said they wouldn't support it. Just a further discussion.
Okay.
So the motion is to approve it.
Okay.
Thank you for the clarification. That could have been weird.
No.
McCardle.
No.
Barrington.
No.
Bathke.
No.
Charks.
No.
Smith.
Nay.
Sabers.
Nay.
Goldhammer.
Nay.
Motion failed. Motion failed.
Motion fails. Okay. So with that out of the way, let's go to the next one. Second reading on ordinance 2025-06, creating of the rental housing code. Mr. Johnson.
All right. Well, as we discussed extensively at the last meeting, this would implement a rental housing code, provide for inspections, create some standards in relation to those. I'm not going to go through everything again. We spent a lot of time on that, and I'm sure people will be speaking to various parts of it here tonight. The one part that I did want to draw attention to that looks like it didn't get fixed throughout our process and me getting it on for first reading. If you go all the way down to Stephanie 4.12.12 subsection B, when we get into the legal non-conforming. Give it a second here so everybody can see what we're looking at. One more page, I think. Keep going. Oh boy. Too big. Keep going. Right there, and then I'm rolling on to the next page. So at the end of that, you might want to zoom back out actually so we can get both parts. We're not going to get it yet. All right, well, we'll wing it here. So second sentence there reads, legal nonconforming status will lapse if either the rental house or rental unit remains unoccupied for a period of 6 months or the property changes ownership. So throughout our process, we discussed removing that second part there of or the property changes ownership so that the grandfathering status would transfer if somebody were to sell their rental house unit. So that was mistakenly left in. I don't know how council's going to act tonight, but if we are going to approve it, I would recommend that we correct that part, which would bring it back for another second reading. So I guess with that one comment out of the way and keeping that in mind throughout the discussion, we can open it up for questions and audience participation.
I think I may have found another error here. Just go to the hazardous mold. It's D. It's D.
It's down further.
Down. Keep going down. So it reads, and maybe I'm not understanding. Hazardous mold should remediate the hazardous mold. I think we got some language we need to clear up there.
Shall be remediated, or
I know what you
landlord
mean,
should.
Yeah, we missed a letter, missed a word there. So that's another one to keep on the list here if it will be moving forward. So we'll circle back to those. I'm assuming that we'll want to have discussion on other things, and we'll keep these two issues in mind.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, and this, what I'm about to say is not to persuade anyone that's in the audience from coming up to speak. I certainly hope they still have that opportunity. But I have been reached out to by several individuals who didn't feel like they had due diligence with the ability to read, review, and have their legal teams read and review these ordinances. And to that end, I'm in a motion to table until the July 7th meeting for further discussion at that time.
I'll second.
Tip.
I think to go to the second one.
But we're going to discuss it all right now with all these people here, is what you're saying. Okay, just making sure. All these people, making a lot of people very frustrated out there.
Do we want to do it?
Yeah. So,
whoa! You got settle down out there. Settle down out there.
Yeah. Maybe we should do it the second meeting in July to give them even a little more time.
I'm fine with that. So that'd be the, yeah.
So before we get to that, do we want to take care of these two housekeeping items that we've mentioned here tonight?
I'd add it to the list. So
we could amend the ordinance to fix those two things here tonight, and then you could table it after that. I don't want to put motions in anybody's mouth, but I don't want to have to bring it back for another second reading just to fix this stuff, to have to bring it back for another second reading after that.
So you're saying we could do a second reading and then say, let's change it and then come back for a second reading later?
It's state statute requires that if you make a material change to the ordinance, you have to bring it back for another second reading.
So if we table it tonight and we have to change it, then we have to do another third, fourth actual meeting.
That's what I'm saying.
Would it be safe to say, and I'm going to echo what Tim said, I had multiple phone calls from them, and obviously there's definitely a lot more work that needs to be done, sadly to say. There's going to be multiple changes from my understanding if these people get what they are expecting in this document. So we can clearly do these two things, but there's going to be changes where it has to have another second reading.
Yep, that's fine. If there's going to be more coming, then we're not losing any time.
From these folks out here that have rang my horn, there's going to be a lot of changes to it. That needs to be from what I'm understanding. So I guess it's going to come back for a second reading. I guess what I'm getting at.
I do think that at least that first change that was discussed, that was a comment that we received quite a bit. So
yes,
if you got that addressed right away, people would know that's your intention.
Okay. I see you're saying, yeah, because that was definitely one of them. Yeah. That was definitely one. I'm like, sounds good, just yank it out.
So, Marty, you're basically saying, let's send this back to the committee for more information, more discussion, and then see what some of the other renters, what they would like to maybe incorporate in.
Right, because for the multiple ones that I talked to, there really wasn't even an echo. They almost had all different thoughts. My latest one today brought up a whole different thing than the other ones brought up. I'm like, well, wow, good point. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of different situations that each one has at their own thoughts of it going on. So, I mean, once again, part of it is it's not that I don't want to hear from everybody, but the reason why we do committees and task force for the 19 years that I've sat here is the reason why you do that is they do their due diligence and they bring it back in a fairly clean method that is probably going to get support. Yeah, you're never going to have 100% no matter what we do. We all know that. But there was zero support is what I was getting from my phone calls is what I'm trying to get. And I just think that this needs to go to a different meeting and it needs to have maybe a couple meetings that the original committee has to do some more work. And I'm not picking on the committee. I'm just saying that there's a lot of them that didn't get a chance to hear, and I know it was advertised. I talked to Dan about it. It was on social media. It's on Facebook. It was all over the mayor's page. But there's still people out there that say, I didn't even know about it was coming up and didn't like this. So, I mean, they need their time in so-called court, and this isn't the courtroom for what needs to be talked about first before it comes back here where I'm at. And I'm all about sending it back to committee, but it needs to go sooner than later.
And I think we should get emails of the people who have concerns about this. And we email them and let them know when the meetings are so they can attend the meetings and express their concerns, the landlords and tenants that are opposed to some of the stuff that's on there so they can express what they like and what they don't like.
Right. With all these people out here that are getting their information, their emails, and they get a personal email saying, hey, this is when the committee is meeting again. Feel free to please be there, so they can.
That way they can say they have the information, that they've been invited, and if they don't show up, it's on them, and if they want to show up, they can.
To be fair, this was originally decided December of last year. And I'm not saying right or wrong, but we had 6 months to have people reach out to us. And I still think everyone should get a fair shake at saying it. And I agree that if we're going to make a decision, we should definitely think about everything before making that decision for sure. And then the second thing I think I'll address is, how many of you guys were out there that were on the committee? I know there's a couple, and Brandon just left, and then there's another one. Just wondering how many committee. Oh, there he is, back. The other thing is, if we're going to tailor the rental inspections to avoid every landlord's worry, we might as well just not do it. And I'm not saying. That wasn't what I was expecting, but
well, I wish this started coming from your office is why we're into this situation. But one of the things I guess I'm going to bring up too, because one of the individuals that called me brought it up, and they have rental units in, or manage them or whatever it may be, in Huron. Obviously, I know you have units in Huron. They have an ordinance somewhat similar like this, but different, it sounds like. And they really support that one up in here. And any reason why, from the time that you put into this ordinance, sitting on part of the committee and mirroring over it, why, for where you're at with your units in Huron, that you put your money in up there, any reason why we didn't take that ordinance and sort of mirror off?
Oh, God, we looked at every ordinance in the entire state of South Dakota.
It sounds like they get supported pretty good up there.
Well,
I mean, obviously, you're there.
I mean, to me, it's not a big issue for me but obviously it's different for everyone else. But we referenced that several times, did we not?
The Huron ordinance? Yeah. It was certainly considered throughout the process.
I'm guessing they like it because it's not here, but that's just my opinion.
Jordan, I think I had, and some of the landlords that are out there probably heard this similar opinion, that we've been advertising this for a very long time and discussing it, but until you see the writing on the stone that you're about to pass as a law, it's difficult to say that you're in favor one way or the other. And I don't necessarily know that I'm going to concede to every request that they make, but it's certainly within reason to allow them to have an opinion vocally and change the ordinance in certain situations. I know that I've had several conversations. I talked to one person for over an hour on the phone just going through the ordinance, and they offered opinions on a lot of different things. And some of them, I'm going to be very honest, that I hadn't thought of when we were in this room discussing the possibility of the ordinance. And so I just think it's better to have that open dialogue and open discussion to allow people to have the opinion and share their thoughts. And you're always going to get different ideas. And then it's up to this board still ultimately to decide whether or not what we go through and what we are putting on the table.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. Just to bring the lake thing back, I never really thought about the lake thing until it was on the doorstep of being approved, and then my idea was completely different than what the council wanted to decide. And I can understand your frustration with me at this point, because it's like, man, you guys did all that work, and then on the day it's time to vote, then something completely changed different. So I agree. I've sat on both sides of this table, and I do want to listen to everything those guys want to say, because I've been in both spots. So I want to hear everything. And of course, we want to make it as easy as possible, but also health and safety, life and safety is the number one. So Justin, real quick, so what is your recommendation from the legal aspect to make sure we don't have to do 4 second readings of this, but still give everyone an opportunity to speak their voice tonight and in the future?
Yeah, so you can obviously hear commentary from everybody here tonight. If the direction from council is going to be that they want this to go back to committee and be revised and then brought back for, a more finalized version and not making the changes directly within the council meeting, my opinion on that is that it's going to be easier for you to not approve this tonight, and we'll bring back a new version and just start over with first reading.
With me not table it?
Right. I would, if that's the direction that we want to go, is send it back to committee, do the changes there, bring suggestions or a new version. I would start clean with that new version.
You just like doing ordinances, don't you?
So,
what I'm here for. I'm here to
once again, Justin, it's not that I don't want to hear from all these people, but they're not going to get their right say in court by sitting in this room tonight, is what I'm trying to get at. This committee was put together to put this ordinance together and bring forth to us. And once again, I'm not trying to pick on everybody, but it didn't happen. It clearly didn't happen, and that needs to happen again and revised up, because there is zero support out there for it. And not saying zero, maybe there's one out there, but the majority of them are definitely against it, I guess. Let's put it that way. Majority of them are against it. So I don't know. My thing is, it goes back to committee, and they have to make sure they let all these people know out there when that is for them to get their time to voice their opinion and get things changed.
And just to be clear, I've got no problem with going back to the drawing board and going through the process. I'm here to help facilitate those things. This is a culmination of all of the participants throughout the process. It's not just, my ordinance. I don't want to have that
How would the
impression
proper
out
way
there.
be to make a motion to deny then?
Yeah, if you want to change the motion to do a motion to deny on second reading.
If that's what you recommend, that's what
I think that's a cleaner way to move forward if we're going to be going back through committee work.
You okay with that, Jim?
I'm just wondering who's going to be on the committee, because we're going to have to either get some of those guys out there that are opposed to it to be on the committee.
Well, we'd want them at the meeting so they can express their concerns.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's an open forum and not necessarily just the committee. Just to be
That's a good idea.
Just to be heard, and then the committee can be at that meeting, obviously, and then have a committee meeting afterwards to discuss what was brought up as concerns during that meeting.
Yeah, my suggestion was going to be, how are we going to hear all the concerns that all of you have heard? There's committee members that haven't had the same contact that you have. So how are they going to get the context from everyone that you've heard concerns about? But a listening session, I think like you're suggesting, would work.
So we're not going to listen to these people at all.
No, we're listening to them. We're listening to them.
Yeah, I'm
they didn't sit through that other 2 hours just to leave.
Yeah, and obviously anything that gets said tonight will be
right.
valuable as you go through the committee sessions again, have a listening session, however that process moves forward. All the comments that we hear tonight are going to be useful for that.
And Councilmember Bathke, I just assume that everybody you've heard from is not sitting in the room. There's others. So I'm saying, how do we hear from the others that aren't here?
I love that idea. I love the idea of an open forum where they can come and see. But I want to hear, so in my mind, I can start thinking, well, I'm not moving off of that egress window in the basement or whatever. So I can hear what their concerns are, because I have heard some people call me and say, it's government overreach and this and that. But to me, it's just health and safety. I think it's fairly straightforward what we've presented. But if they want to tweak it, I am absolutely open to listening to them. But once again, to me, it just comes down to health and safety.
And the one thing too, Mike, as any of the council, because it's an open forum and it's obviously notified to the media, literally every one of us could be at that committee meeting to sit there and listen to them. So when we get to this stage, it is there. So I mean, your opportunity to listen to them at the committee meeting is obviously, that door is open for any and all council to attend.
I think, Justin, every landlord in town would have access to this ordinance and be a good starting point. Landlords who have concerns could come to an open deal and say, we don't like this or this, or 95% of them don't like this sentence. There's a reason, So I think I wouldn't start from scratch. I'd start with what you have and alter that as needed.
Yeah, and the more I think about it, some of the concerns in the audience maybe we already have the answers clarified in the ordinance. You know what I mean? Because I know I met with the South Dakota multi-housing lady, and 100% of the stuff she thought was not quite accurate. By the end of the time, it was like this pretty much clarifies everything. None of the stuff you thought was even in there. And I get it. I answered. It's hard because it's a 12-page ordinance. So I don't know that we should be so quick to just jump and deny or table this thing, rather than at least listen to these people and then.
And I'm actually okay with listening for sure. This whole thing has been a compromise for me. It has been coming to a table and listening and having open discussion. The committee, I was on the committee, and I thought everyone had a really good chance to have a voice on the committee. And I don't know why at this stage, and this was a self-awakening for myself, that all of a sudden I stopped being willing to come to this table. That I didn't want to hear from landlords at that point, and I didn't think that was fair. That they should be able to have a voice just like everyone else.
Totally agree.
And so I want to be able to have that opportunity for them, and I don't feel like several of them feel like they've had that at that point, or at this point anyways. But Justin, just as a point of interest, we could have this tabled, kill it, and then bring back a first reading for something else later too, correct?
Run that by me one more time.
So we table this for tonight to bring back, and then it's decided in that meeting that something else needs to come about. We can kill this at that time and then bring a new first reading at that time for a different ordinance.
Oh yeah, new ordinance you can do is whatever in the future.
Yeah,
I would say why wouldn't we just vote to approve it? And then if you want to kill it, then let's kill it and start over like what we said. But you guys are obviously the people in charge here, so. Do we want to why doesn't someone make a motion? However, I mean, this is the longest discussion about just the motion.
I missed that. I stepped out.
So none of us get a chance.
No, you're going to talk. You are, okay, just do it.
Before
you vote on this?
Okay, so I'll explain it to you. So before the audience can come up here, according to the law, is we have to have a motion in a second, and then we can open it up to audience.
Yeah,
You have a motion?
There's a motion on the table to table.
In a second. Okay. So is everyone ready for audience to come up then?
So, yeah, unless you can amend your motion to.
I guess I'm fine with moving. I would like the motion to be to move to approve.
Okay, so we have changed it to.
If we motion,
You can still kill it. We're just okay. We're just, all this discussion we're having right now is just on what motion we're going to make. Okay, where it's nothing to do with the ordinance itself. So.
Yeah. So Kevin, do you second that?
No, I don't.
I'll second it.
Okay, so just for the audience clarification, we have a motion and a second to approve it. That doesn't mean we're going to approve it, and it doesn't mean that we're not going to just change it. What that does is it gives an opportunity for everyone in the audience to voice their opinion. Once we get all of your information, at that time we can decide to either pass it or kill it, and if it gets killed, it'll get sent back to the drawing board, and then we'll start over. But if we table it, then it has to come back for another reading, and then another reading, and then it's just a lot of city council meetings to try to get the same thing accomplished. If that makes sense to everyone in the audience. So, does anyone else on the council have further discussion before we open it up to those audience folks out there?
The only thing I ask, as we have done in previous years, is the fact that hearing from everybody, obviously, I don't know if there's going to be a limit of a little bit on how much you're going to have for their comment, knowing that there's going to be a committee meeting that's going to rehear all these comments, is if somebody states something, let's not have it repetitious, as in the same person saying the same thing.
So, I'm not one to ever limit anyone's time, but I'm crazy on that part. I don't like to limit. So what Marty's asking in the same boat is, if someone comes up here and the same thing keeps getting said over and over and over, we just ask that you don't repeat the same thing if it's been addressed and answered, just for time's sake.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yep. Just break it down for the audience. Okay. Who wants to go first out there? This guy looks eager and close. All right. And just make sure to state your name when you guys come up here.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. My name is Don Dahl. I represent the Adamo family and their interests here in Mitchell, California.
Mitchell, South Dakota.
Two big questions that I've been asked. They're lining up behind me. So. Yeah. The two questions that I've been asked most here in Mitchell, South Dakota is, why do you move here from California? Why do you leave California? Second question is, why do you come to Mitchell? Well, California is the most overregulated, hostile environment with an endless stream of red tape that affects every part of your life. Every part. I mean, you go to the grocery store, it's red tape. It don't matter. Not just in construction, not just in rentals, but everything. It's just grown to that. That's why I left. That's why I'm here. Why am I here in Mitchell, South Dakota? Because Mitchell, South Dakota is not that. Mitchell, South Dakota is not a hostile environment. When I read through this, I got to the second page and I says, this is a page right out of the California playbook. It's been mentioned here several times tonight that this is Mitchell, South Dakota. Why do you want to be like everybody else? Why would you adopt something that's written the same as it is in California, that's a complete failure in California, and bring it here and ruin what you have? Since I've been here for the past 3 years, it's become evident to me that the people in South Dakota don't know how good they have it. You know, Kiara here, she read this and she says, I want to come here with a sign that says, I'm from the future. This does not work. Right?
It's true.
She said that this does not work. I'm glad that you're going to try to table this. You need to take it back to the committee. Somebody needs to get in that committee and help you create a document built for Mitchell. Built for Mitchell. Mitchell is a special place. I've grown to love it here. I have no intention of leaving Mitchell, South Dakota. I'm doing my best to make this the best place in the world to live. I want to thank you for your time. I want to tell you all it's been a pleasure to work with you for the past 3 or 4 years. I look for continued efforts. This is the easiest department, and I've been through 50 years in construction, 50 years in remodel. And this is by far the best group I have ever worked with. By far, bar none. Don't blow it. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
One question for you.
Yes, sir.
If we were to pass this in the layout it is, would you pass inspection?
Would I pass inspection? I would have trouble. I would have trouble. This puts me in a bind.
As far as what?
It puts me in a bind as far as I'm stretched from one end of town to the other, and I'm rehabbing multiple buildings. I have a lot of projects on. You have no place in this document for somebody like me that has a system in place that says, "Hey, I'm making these repairs. I'm making this better." What this does here is ties my hands. It says you got to do this. You have to change. You have to comply to this code. You have to comply to that code. It's too many regulations. It's apparent what I'm doing. It's apparent of what a lot of these people are doing. We're doing the best we can. You're going to hurt the little guy. You're going to take and create a hostile environment where everybody in the room is going to start fighting against you. When in fact you actually have all these people work with you every day already. You're going to blow that. I guarantee it. 50 years, I guarantee it.
Now, I've been in your apartments. We know each other.
Yeah.
But to answer my question, would they pass this layout?
Would they pass? I would say the majority of them would pass. What happens in this, and what I read in this, is it's open-ended. It's like you're passing something that doesn't have all the information in it. It says we're going to figure it out as we go along.
So to answer, I'm not trying to interrupt.
Yeah.
So other than the timeline and the fees and the corrective actions, is there anything else in there as far as life safety and the 27 or whatever things that we said we'd like to see?
No,
Are any of those
unagreeable? It's just not user friendly. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yep.
No, it really doesn't. It's not user friendly. You're coming at me with an inspector, and you're going to give me a laundry list of stuff that I got to do. Well, I already know what I got to do. Okay, I don't need the extra pressure. I'm already under pressure, right? And you're going to make me start cutting corners where I don't need to cut corners. The same with everybody else. Yeah. All I'm saying is don't copy something. Be Mitchell. Figure out what you are. Figure out what this town is, and be Mitchell. Be something different. Make it user friendly. It's just not. It's not. I've seen it. I've seen it. I've lived it for 50 years, and I really don't want to live it for another 50. Not that I'm going to make it another 50. Yeah.
You might.
But the other thing that I would tell you, and you this was before you, when we first came here, I stood on top of the Western Building with the mayor and with several people from city council and from the building department. And the first thing they told me, they pulled me aside and they said, "We don't mind you coming here and being a part of our community and doing this work." But they said, "Don't bring California with you." And you made it very clear and very evident that they didn't want Californians coming and bringing their BS with them. And it's evident to me that if this passes and you follow those guidelines, you shoot yourself in the foot. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I got to say, this is a new record for the longest line I've seen at the podium. So,
Mayor, Council, I think most of you know us, but we'll introduce ourselves anyhow. We're Frank and Chris Cromer, and most of you know us through Cromer Plumbing, but we also own a properties business. We have about 120 apartment units. Now, at any of our properties, do we have a pool? No. Do we have a weight room or anything? No. But what we do have are clean, well-maintained, safe, and affordable apartment units. Our most expensive apartment, two-bedroom apartment, rents for $700 a month. We rent to factory workers, teachers, construction workers, hospital workers. There is just a really huge demand for housing in this price range. When we have someone move out, we rehab that unit before another tenant moves in, and there is a waiting list of applications for that unit. Now, council members, mayor, not everybody has got $1,200 or $1,500 a month to pay for rent for an apartment. It's wonderful that we have that option in Mitchell, but that's just simply not an option for some of the people here. Now, if we, and I think ours would probably, all of them, pass most of the items on that list. But I think everybody in this room knows that when this gets started and city government gets its toe in the door, this is only the beginning. This is going to end up being instead of one person that's going to be going around inspecting apartments, pretty soon we're going to have a whole department here of people, and that's what their jobs are. And this $12 a year per unit is going to turn into a huge expense. Which is basically it's a rental tax. This is a tax on the renters in our community, and it's just going to turn into making affordable housing, which is what we're all looking for. It's going to make affordable housing not so affordable. So, and honestly, I'm perplexed by it, because I just, like, if I go to a store and I don't like something there, or if I go someplace and I don't like a service that I've received, or I go to a restaurant and the food's crappy, I don't go there again. So if someone goes and looks at an apartment and they don't like it, don't move in. I mean, no one has shackled you to this unit. So why don't you just simply not move in and basically let the trash take itself out? You know, if they don't like the place, they won't get renters there, and they'll have to do something to fix it up if they want to make any money on it. So what my hubby and I are asking respectfully is that you don't even table this. This should just go away. There is no reason. This is government overreach, and we are just respectfully asking that you don't let this happen. Frank and I are not here to tell any one of you how to run your business, how to do your jobs, and we're just asking you to not tell us how to do ours. And I guess that's all we have.
Well, I just want to add to that west of the Moose Lodge is Park Place, which we own, was built by Gordy Thompson, Dean Robidoux, Maury Jameson, and Les Hildebrand. It was built for affordable housing for Trail King. Mitchell Concrete, bigger construction companies in manufacturers in Mitchell 30-some years ago. And today, the most expensive apartment we have to rent is $700. I think you can't buy an affordable house at $200,000 or whatever they're going for. I don't want to get into that. You can't buy that house and your payment is $700 a month. Then you got your taxes and your insurance and everything else. We've already been hit with increase in water. We understand why. We're hit increase with sewer. We understand why. Well, that all got passed on to the tenants. I mean, we can't take the loss, so they just took the hit. And I know you guys don't control the taxes. They gone up. The tenants took the hit. So let's don't hit them again. Leave them alone. They need a place to live too. Thank you.
And I do have to say, Jeff, Danny Allen was really an iconic councilman, but you rank right up there with him. So,
real quick, before you guys leave.
Yes.
I have been in rentals for a long time, and I followed your guys' stuff, and you have done a really awesome job. So I'm sure everyone on the council agrees. Everything you've done, because I've watched it, has been very nice. You did very good upgrades on your properties.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that.
Yep.
Mayor, and your online is ready when you are.
Well, look, these people are standing.
Okay.
She's just
My name is Chris Hutz, so I got one question. Do you guys know like what actually inspections are getting done on properties like Inspire? Do you guys know anything about that?
Yeah, there's certain Section 8 or HUD or
yeah, so those are getting expenses for owners, right? So now you want to do another inspection. I don't know if you guys realize. So you guys come and do an inspection. Now maintenance or manager is going to have to go with them to each unit. So that's going to cost on the owners having the maintenance guy or manager to go to this, set up all the scheduling, post all this stuff, and that's just another big cost for the owner. That's going to end up going back to the renters. And and some of us already do yearly inspections ourselves. I mean, if you could actually look outside the properties, I don't know if the code enforcer looks at the property apartments when they drive by. You got an apartment building here on 6th Street has a broken window, and I mean, you can see who's taking care of what properties. I mean, it's pretty obvious. So, and then my other question is, so if somebody has a whole bunch of stuff to get fixed, do they have to come, is the city going to come back, re-inspect that again? So that's another cost. Somebody else has to go with that member to go in that apartment and look at it. So again, it's a big cost at the long road here. And you want the cost of rent to be down. I mean, you're having troubles for people finding places. Now the cost is high. And I don't think you guys know how long it takes to go through a apartment building. It takes some time. Like Inspire they do a 90% of a building. It could take a whole day just for 60 units. And you go by this sheet here, who's going to have the manpower to do all that? And if you do 2 teams, now you got to have 2 maintenance or 2 managers going with everybody. Now the cost is even higher for that owner. It's a big cost. I don't think you guys realize it. So that's all I got.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Drew Cromer. I guess a lot of my points have already been said, but I just want to start off with thank you for everything you guys do. I mean, it's really kind of I wouldn't want to be sitting in your seats, so I just want to start with that. But in Mitchell, we have roughly 4,000 rental units, and I don't know how a single inspector would try and cover this. I mean, there's not enough days in a year to get through them all, so I don't know what the goal would be with that. But my opinion is there's going to be more inspectors and more cost, and it's going to keep growing exponentially. So that was pretty much my other item. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Melissa, and I'm representing Mills Property Management tonight. We're strictly a third-party management company. We do not own any of the properties that we manage. As I sit in the audience, I guess I just want to address the elephant in the room. I think probably the reason this ordinance came to being is because you counselors and Mr. Hanson have gotten calls from residents about slumlords that aren't reinvesting in their property. And the rest of us that put money back into the property, the owners put money back in the property. We do annual inspections every year. We try to keep things up as best we can, control rents. It seems to be that we are the ones that are getting penalized for this instead of just calling out what the issue is. So that concerns me. I would say the majority of the people that are here are good landlords that represent a good product, health, safety, security, and we want to do that for Mitchell and for the people living in the units. Other question I had is who was on the committee? Are you able to say that? Because I have no idea who's on it. How many of these people?
So we had like 7 or 8 landlords, maybe not 7 or 8. We had 6 or 7 landlords. We had the state electrical inspector. We had property managers. We had fire. We had police, we had code enforcement, we had attorney, we had public works, we had building inspector, we had nuisance, and we had city administrator. Citizens, just tenants. And then Department of Equalization. Okay. So it was like 20 people of all.
And aspects. It sounds like a good range, but I think a lot of us were caught off guard. So maybe, the open forum where people can come and then again bring it back here. I think there's many of the same ideas out here. And then the other thing, our corporate office for Mills Property Management is in Brookings. And I can tell you our licensing fees, if you're really going to go on the $12 per unit per year, I don't know where that came about. Is that not true?
That's the proposed fee. I'm guessing it wouldn't touch the actual cost.
Okay, that's the proposed fee.
Yep.
Okay.
That's the starting point.
So if I use that and compare it to Brookings, which I would say, you know, Brookings being a college town, it probably does have pretty good rental ordinance there, and they've done it for many years. An 8-unit apartment building there, you pay for your 4-year licensing up front. And for those 8 units, it's going to be $164. In Mitchell, if I used your $12 per unit fee, I think that is for 4 years, $384. So it's more than double. And then having to, by November 30th, to apply for something that's going to be a 3 or 4 year license, to me doesn't make sense. So I would love to be part of that open forum to talk about that. So it's everybody's on the same boat, because that doesn't make sense. And as landlords, we don't want to be the one footing the bill so that the city can hire 2 or 3 people. This should be in your budget. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there, Ben Cromer, Ward 3. I'm sure this ordinance did start off with good intentions. It appears that with life safety in mind, but it appears that it's morphed into a lot more than that. And if it was just about life safety, you probably wouldn't have this entire army of opponents here. I started off going through this proposal, or through this proposed amendment, or ordinance, excuse me, thinking I might find a couple things here and there that I had issues with, but I ended up with 4 pages of bullet points that I found problematic. I can kind of speak to the legislative side a bit, or process a bit from my own experience. In the legislature, you don't have to introduce a perfect bill. I understand that. There's an opportunity to make tweaks and changes along the way between committees, chambers, the floors, all that stuff. That's similar to the city council, but your timetable is a little more truncated. You have a committee, first and second reading. Similar to the legislature, if your bill at the end, in this case an ordinance, if it's not ready for prime time, they say, then it needs to fail. Now, we're even talking about an 11th hour Hail Mary amendment to try and save this thing, and that's pretty apparent that this thing is not ready for prime time. Passing a problematic ordinance into law just because time has been invested in it with the intention of fixing mistakes and dealing with the fallout later is bad legislating and bad lawmaking. This is a new tenant tax, let's be clear about that, and it will increase the cost of housing in Mitchell. We heard it in our opening prayer this morning and several previous items that we want growth in Mitchell. Isn't that going to need affordable housing? We heard about affordable housing too, and let's not do away with affordable housing by starting a tenant tax. With the troublesome writing and the need for affordable housing in Mitchell, I respectfully ask that the council make a substitute motion to deny.
Thank you.
Hey there, Mike Pearson. We're going to dumb this down a little bit. This here's the proverbial solution looking for a problem. It truly is. I mean, I got rentals. I don't know how long I've had them. Good long time. But I keep them up. And yes, I would pass all of this stuff. But I do it on my own. I don't need anyone else coming in and telling me what to do. Where did all this begin? You guys get phone calls about other landlords? Yeah, well,
yes.
Direct this at them. It's not for all of us.
I'm not trying to argue, but you can't make a law to just one person. It has to be fair and equal for everyone. I understand where you're coming from. You're right. It didn't come from everyone that does a good job. We don't make laws for people that don't do bad things. But it's not fair to just say, we're picking you and here's your new law. So not to interrupt, I just want to cut you off.
If you get a call, you go investigate it. You go investigate that.
We have nothing there's no enforcement then because there's no law.
Well, okay. If somebody complains about that, go to that landlord. Why are we involved if we got good property? Right?
I agree.
That's why this has got to be scrapped, the whole thing. There's got to be a new idea about this, and not this. Can I get some traction on that? Thank you.
The most amount of clapping I've heard as well.
I'll be brief. My name's Brandon Sigmund. My wife and I own a few rentals here in town. I was on the committee. I volunteered, was selected, and I was, participated. I've never agreed with this from the beginning, but I wanted to have a voice on the committee if indeed this was going to go through. I'll tell you what, everything that's on there, I'm pretty sure our properties would pass. I believe they would. We take care of them. We put money into them, more than I want. But, it's just, I think your motion should just be to kill the whole thing. I don't know why we're doing this at all. So that's my comment.
Now, okay, so real quick, he was on the committee and he did not agree with it from the beginning. So I want everyone to know that I didn't just pick a committee of people that would agree with this. So I was trying to make it a fair shake, and that's why Brandon's on the committee. And maybe you're going to fall into that same category.
I'm Angie Anderson. I own AJ Management. I actually, Brandon's properties all would pass. I manage his properties along with many others, and I sat on the committee as well. I'm all for health and safety. I don't feel that's what this is. As Jordan knows, I am against it. My problem is we have code enforcement. We also have nuisance laws. 2 years ago, I had a property where I got called because of weeds in the alley. There was one spot where it was super rocky and the single mom couldn't get the weeds down. So I called up code enforcement. I called them up. I'm like, okay. So I'm standing in my alley. I have this little section of weeds. I go, you find me for this. I said, okay. I turn around and our neighbor in the alley, well, the whole alley was full of weeds. And you know what he told me? Nobody complained about their properties. They only complained about mine. Well, he stood in that alley and saw all of these weeds. So why didn't he contact everyone in that alleyway? He was there. As I understand it right now, someone has to complain before anything gets done in this town. So why don't we make it code enforcement nuisance? He's going out and being proactive. That way you catch all of this stuff that you're trying to push through in this document. I mean, we're already paying someone. They're on the payroll. It appears to me that he's not doing everything that he should be doing because he has his hands tied because there has to be a complaint. Well, you're saying that people are calling in and complaining about the sublords as they are. So why aren't they being investigated? Why isn't he going to these properties and already doing what the complaints are there? Why are we doing this here when we already have codes? We have nuisance laws. Why aren't we being proactive?
I don't want to cut you off. Are you finished? I'll answer a couple quick. Okay, so first, you're correct. It is a complaint basis only for the exterior, but on the inside, there's nothing. So if someone called and said, I got mold in my house, there's nothing. I don't have fire extinguishers.
He stood up here in the first meeting, and he said if he gets a complaint for mold, he would go check it out. So obviously, he can go in and check it out if there's mold in the building. So why? So we give him a little bit more reach if there's a complaint about my plumbing hasn't worked for 3 weeks. So we changed the ordinance there in the nuisance laws or the code stating he has the ability to go in there. I mean, you guys already have a guy that's supposed to be doing this stuff. So give him the tools he needs to be able to do his job. Don't create a whole nother job that's going to add to, because when we started off, Huron does 2 to 3 times a year. Or
every 3 years.
2 to 3 years.
Yep.
The way this ordinance is wrote, it says no less than 12 months. So every 12 months, you're going to be setting up to come back in.
No. Every 12 months, you have to read.
Like they said, very open-ended to what you guys can interpret. So a minimum every 12 months, right now, the way it's wrote, the way it reads, you can come in every 12 months and inspect us. I mean, will all of my properties pass? Yes, they will. Because myself and my owners take very good care of the properties and reinvest in them. But now we're looking at every year, rents are going to go up by $12 on each unit. Because this is going to be passed on to the tenants. Because, well, like they said, everything else has gone up. This is going to be passed on to the tenants, and the affordable houses for the families that need it are going to become unaffordable. I think we need to have the code enforcer do what he's supposed to be doing and give him the tools to do it, rather than passing this. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Hello,
I'm Lori Meyer. I represent Van Busker Companies. Like Mills Property, we're an agent for owners here in town. I'm very proud to be owners that take care of their properties. They do their own inspections. We take care of multi-housing inspections. This adds another layer to it, so we're just going on the record saying we'd like it killed as well. So,
Thank you.
Hi, Tanner Music, owner of Music Properties here in Mitchell. My wife Michelle. This whole thing here, I think, should be abolished. I mean, I think it's just an extra expense for everybody, and I think I kind of agree with her. Our nuisance person that we have already, we could give him a little more range if there is a complaint to go look at it. I mean, I've been in apartment business for 35 years, built every one that I run and own, and yes, I would pass every inspection. But why throw this on? Then I have one of my employees that has to go with this person 20 minutes to each apartment. You know, you have 200 apartments. You're talking hours. And you're talking nights, weekends. People aren't going to let you come into their apartment just at any time. You know, what happens if you find something illegal in there? Does he have to own by the city? Does he have to come tell that to the police if it's something illegal? Did you know?
Haven't considered that part yet.
That's what I mean. I mean, they're so broad a range. That you, I mean, this is. I mean, I think, like she said, if there's a complaint, then you have the nuisance officer go look.
Or can you have on your website, a Mitchell website, where people can complain? They can put in their, their complaint to you, and then it can go be inspected. I mean, I just think we're all getting punished because.
Of the few people.
Yeah, because I mean, we take very good pride in our place. When somebody moves out, we go in, we flip the whole thing. Maintenance is done on every apartment. It's re-cleaned, carpets cleaned, and the next person moves in.
Yep.
So I would agree with Cromer.
I think just abolish the whole thing. I don't think we need another person to tell us what to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul Cook. I own Cook Premier Properties and looking to do some building on the north end, as y'all know. And my places would all pass with flying colors. So how come I feel so personally attacked? Targeted. Absolutely targeted. Personally. And I'll bet these people all feel the same way. How did we ever make it without this up till now? How did we ever do it? I don't know. So, do the right thing. Scrap it. Go on. You've heard some good ideas on what you can do on codes and others, but get rid of it.
Thank you.
My name is Pam Bathke, and I am a landlord and a property manager here in Mitchell. And I'm going to have a little bit of a different perspective for you. But you all need to hear me out because you have some points that I agree with. Okay, I'm going to change this up a little bit and tell you a story. 2 weeks ago, I showed a rental unit to 3 Mitchell Tech boys and their parents. And as usually happens, they fill my ear about what they just looked at. Okay? So the first house, the parents explained that there was a stairwell which was basically a death trap in their mind. The treads were not positioned properly and made for an easy step in the wrong direction, and the railing was like way lower than required by building code. So they were like, there's no way our sons are going to be living in there. That's an accident waiting to happen. The second house they looked at, well, one of the parents is severely allergic to mold, and the minute he walked in, he knew there was mold throughout the house. They also noticed that there were 2 columns supporting an upper level, and those columns were not structurally sound. Okay, so they ended up renting my unit, and they felt really good about it. Now, the thing that I liked about these people is there were 3 sets of parents there. I can't tell you how many times there's no parents there. Can we expect 18 and 19-year-old kids to know what they're looking at? No, we can't. And somebody's going to rent those houses that the parents had the foresight to see were not a good fit. Not everybody's that savvy enough to recognize potential hazards. This rental ordinance is about protecting those that are vulnerable, and not everyone has the power or knowledge to advocate for their own safety. There's another issue here, which isn't even about health and safety, but how welcome do you think people considering moving into our own community feel when this is the kind of housing that greets them? They're looking for a new home and they find all sorts of problems. And maybe they're not looking at your places. Last year in 2024, the recurring issue I had, a story that I had brought to me, was the house smelled like cat urine. And in my mind, I went, was it really cat urine or was it meth? I don't know. The city currently has a project going on where staff are trying to assess which houses in town are served by lead pipes. Lead pipes are a health and safety concern, just as are the items in the rental ordinance standards. Implementing a rental inspection program is like a city taking the initiative to remove lead pipes from its water system. Both are preventative actions that protect people, especially the most vulnerable, from hidden health hazards that they haven't recognized are present or they have no control over themselves. A reactive system that relies on tenants to report issues leaves too much to chance. Just like waiting for someone to report lead poisoning before replacing the pipes. But a proactive rental inspection program is like replacing those lead pipes before someone gets hurt. It's smart, it's preventative, and ensures everyone, not just the well-informed or the lucky, have a safe place to live. So I think something needs to be done. Is it this? I'm going to go back to what Don Dahl said. He said this isn't user-friendly. I agree with that. It's not. It's confusing. I think a checklist could be made that puts things in black and white in simple terms. And that's, when I was doing research today, looking at things, that's what a lot of communities have done. But I think that, somebody said, I think it was Mr. Pearson, he stood up here and said, we have good rentals. And I'm not picking on him, but everybody's definition of good is subjective. So we do need to do something. I would encourage you to go back and look at this and make something that is a little more
streamlined.
Streamlined, thank you. All right.
Oh, we got a race. What?
I imagine I better come up here since I was one of the promoters of some type of regulation. When I was running for election, I heard it over and over and over again. What are we going to do to clean up some of these apartments? And so I don't know what you do. It's like a speed limit. A speed limit wasn't written for my wife. It's written for me, okay? And so I don't know how you get rid of our inferior housing that we all joke about and we all hear about. This was the best solution. I guarantee you these are a lot of basics, and I was very disappointed that last meeting. There were two of us there from the public, and the staff here has put in, I bet 15 hours apiece or 20 hours apiece trying to regulate this, and it was not to probably regulate you so much as to regulate those inferior ones. Like all rules, that's who they're made for, right? And so we got to come up with some agreement of how we're going to do it. The current law, obviously nobody here turns in a complaint, because I see every month he's got 15 or 16. That's not even making a dent on anything. So I think we do need to go back to the drawing board, have another meeting, and you guys got to come with some ideas on how we're going to fix it up. Because we can't have a good community with some of the homes that we've got. And it has made a big difference in Brookings. It's made a big difference in hearing the people we talk to. So, and if there's, I jumped on this right away. They invited everybody. And if it's going to affect your business, it was in the paper, it was on social media.
Jerry, I didn't hear about it. I didn't hear about it.
I mean, we're talking 6 months ago.
I've been here 3 years, 4 years.
Okay, well that's too bad, but yeah. Now make sure you get your names to Stephanie, and so that you can show up and don't come with complaints. Come with ideas how we're going to find a solution to this. Okay, that's our goal. Okay.
Yeah, and Terry was also on the committee. And also, if anyone wants to be invited to anything in the future, follow my Facebook page because I invite everyone there. We also try to put it in as many public things as possible. So
I even follow him, so that's where I saw it. But yeah, and that last meeting was a 3-hour meeting because we were hashing through some of these things. So, but thank you.
Thank you.
So currently we have a motion on the table of you went into favor it, right?
Motion to pass, yes.
Motion to pass. You second it, right, Mike?
Yep.
Okay. So, and for most of you, I've talked obviously with quite a few of you out there, and I appreciate your phone calls. A few of you didn't call me, Mike. I'm a little disappointed, Brandon. But I think the reason why you didn't call me because you knew where I was going to probably vote on this, and that's not to support it, obviously. And I appreciate you not calling me because I've represented you guys for years, and you know how I stand on a few things. And I know we got to talk. Stuart's got to talk, and I think Ben's come back. I've had a nice conversation with Ben and the Cromer family. So, at some point in time, there was a discussion here about sending it back to committee. Now we have a motion to approve, and I just want to go on record with the fact that I'm not going to be voting for this tonight, as in I'm not going to support it. And I guess if the committee wants to try to bring something back, they certainly can, because that was my first initial response. But now the fact with what we've heard in discussion tonight and what we have on the table, I will not be supporting this ordinance and denying it. So.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Stuart Hansen, and my wife and I own one rental house in town. I'd like to ask all the council members, do you know if my house would pass inspection?
Don't know where it is.
Nobody knows.
These people out here know if my house would pass inspection.
No, nobody.
I don't know if any of their rental properties would pass inspection. I don't know how any of you would know that any of their rental. I agree with everybody here, but how does anybody know that anybody's rental property would pass an inspection or that's safe? So I'm in favor of some type of ordinance, but this is kind of ridiculous. There's a lot there to it. It should be a lot more simple.
I told you we don't agree on everything. Thank you.
I just want to point out one thing it looks like everybody does agree on is that this thing should just be trashed. Even the proponents say this thing should go in the garbage. So I would suggest don't try and fix something that's already bad and broken. Just start from scratch, throw this away, do a motion to deny, and then start the committee back up. Actually invite everyone, because apparently it sounds like not everyone was invited. Have a full participation where everyone can give input, and then bring back something that is more workable.
Just for the sake of argument, I hear you. We got it wrong. But for the sake of argument, what if we did it where it's voluntarily only? You say, you know what? I want you to come inspect my apartment and tell me if I'm doing everything to compliance. And then we're going to put a sticker on your door with the QR code. So when that renter comes along, they can scan it and say, hey, they've been approved by the City of Mitchell's building inspector. They've met all these requirements. Would you be for it then? Nobody. I'm suggesting it. It's actually a suggestion I've thought about a lot. Come to the podium.
Jeez, look at that.
Rally them up. Your QR code stickers aren't going to fix your problem. Aren't going to fix your problem of bad problems.
This would be voluntary, he's saying.
Yeah. But how's that going to solve what you're trying to solve then? Exactly. So why is
setting you apart from those people that aren't doing it? And pretty soon they're not going to be able to rent their place. I'm just being the devil's advocate. Yeah. So they're not going to be able to rent their places. And then pretty soon they've got to fix them up. I know you guys have good rentals. I know Don has good rentals. I've been in.
So let me tell you what they do in California.
Hey, we said don't bring it here. Someone said that. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, in Sacramento, let me tell you what they do. This thing has gotten so far out of hand that the city of Sacramento cannot do the inspections. So they self-inspect. Mr. Dunmo in Sacramento self-inspects. Every year he pays his fees to the city, and then he fills out the form and sends it in. That's the that it started out with inspectors, but it got so far out of hand and so far out of control that they just went to a self-inspection. Does that work? No.
Josh Russell. When I look at the list of 33 things here, I'd be embarrassed if one of my rentals, if I had issues that the walls are falling, the lights didn't work, all the appliances didn't work, stuff like that. But it's not user friendly. There needs to be something. Obviously, you guys have all got complaints. That's why we're here. There needs to be something. We have city ordinances, and when I hear something that's a new ordinance or change to it, I make sure that my houses meet that code. So why isn't there something that, I don't know how simple it needs to be, but if you have a rental house, you're a landlord, if you have a complaint on you, means you're a landlord and you have rental houses, then if they're saying that there's some kind of code enforcement, that your plumbing doesn't work, that the ceilings are falling down on them, that then you have some teeth to go in and inspect that property then and make the changes appropriate. But just to do a yearly inspection and a yearly sign up for this, it's ridiculous, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jean Cook from Cook Premier Properties. My husband was already up here. I told myself I was going to keep quiet, but I can't. So I have a question. So you're going to come into my apartments, and Paul and I are going to tell you already that they would pass inspection because that's the type of landlords that we are. There's a lot of people that know us in this community. There's a lot of people we already have on a waiting list to get into our apartments. But we do have one issue with one of them. It has to be cement. Because the people that put our cement in originally, in the one building, and I'm not a cement person, right? Every winter it heaves up. Causes a knife safety issue for my tenants. Because we rent to the older community. Do you think I can get any contractor in this community for the last 2 years? I've had them come out there and look at it. Tell us what's wrong with it. Tell us how much they're going to charge me. Do you think I can get one of them to come back and take care of it? No, they've got bigger projects. This is too small. Can I do it? Hell no. So with your little ordinance here, are you going to provide me resources to fix it? Because on top of that, I've had to go outside of resources with my builder because I have a hell of a time getting my builder back to make repairs. Now, Paul and I do have nice units. When somebody does move out, we completely revamp them. The expectation is when that renter leaves, it's the same. And if it isn't, then it goes against their payment. So, Mr. Bathke, I'm going to ask you, and are you going to be checking on him? I'm a little widowed old lady, owns his apartment. Hey, Bathke here, he's going to come fix your cement. How do I know that he's not going to overcharge me? Because I know nothing about cement costs. You're penalizing me for a few people in this town, and I don't appreciate it. But what I will also tell you, I found somebody outside of this town to come into this community to help me further build something beautiful, which, by the way, I'm not having a choice because you're taxing me out of this town for the property that I own. And this is going to make it worse. Why should I have to pay for that? I found somebody outside of this town that's not only going to help me build mine, but they're bringing contractors outside of this community to fix my cement. Now, I'm asking you to actually take this back. Rethink it and relook at it. Because like Angie says, I know Angie. So I work in the building. There's one of them that she oversees. Did your inspectors go out to my units? Did they go out to my units?
We don't have inspectors.
Okay. But you're penalizing me and all these people sitting in here for a few people. And I actually resent it. And would I consider getting a lawyer involved? I absolutely would. Because now my tenants are going to pay for it. Because I've already had increased their rent because of property taxes, water. Water. My water bill is outrageous. And I have watering systems to try to keep my buildings beautiful so that I have good tenants. Those tenants don't have to rent from me. Like that lady came up here and talked about most of the college students, their parents go with them. I have a younger kid that I actually went and looked at apartments because he's not going to rent from me because I'm not sure as hell not going to have college kids in my apartments and them kids. That's my own kids. I went looked at some of the houses that they're talking about and what you're looking at and get complaints on. We made that choice to move on. That was our choice. They're choosing to rent. They're choosing to stay there. That's all I have to say.
So with Jeremy coming up, I was just going to, yeah, thank you, ma'am. I was just going to mention that I think we've probably heard what we should be doing here. And so after Jeremy is done, if there's more comments, I'm going to ask the question to vote.
I'd like to say a few things, just a few things before we do that. After Jeremy goes, and then there's one online lady that's been waiting 3 hours, and then we'll just let her rush through, and then we'll wrap this up. So go ahead, Jeremy.
Well, just about everything that I was going to say has already been brought up. But one thing that you just kind of said kind of sticks up to my mind. You said, "What if we get a stamp sticker that we're passed, that our place is passed, and then these other places are not, so they're going to be less likely to fix theirs, or if they have to fix theirs to get rented up." Well, that's letting the market dictate it, and that's the way it is right now. So what you're proposing there, we just made a statement, is really going against everything that's what we're currently doing, is letting the market dictate it. So that's my one comment.
Thank you. Let's let the online go real quick, since she's been waiting patiently.
Thank you so much, Mayor.
Denise,
Appreciate
have you heard
it.
everything they said so far?
Like from what's that?
Have you heard everything they said so far?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good.
Yes. So I'll touch on different areas.
Go ahead. This is Denise from
okay?
South Dakota Multi-Housing Association. I think she runs that or something.
Yes, I do. And I appreciate, everybody being at the meeting tonight and making their points. A couple of things I do want to point out. I know that you kind of copied this or brought in the Vermilion rental ordinance. And I do want to point out that the city of Vermilion faced lawsuit after that from the property owners due to the expense that property owners were going to have to incur in order to comply with code. So that is one thing. The fees, it's the initial application, and then there's the renewals. Yearly, there would be a fee. And then in 4-12-8B, it talks about if you transfer the rental license to another owner, there's a fee. In number C, it says if there's change of information, so if the property management changes to a different company or there's a change in the contact information of the owner, so if they have a new mailing address, there would be a fee. And then if the property has penalties, there would also be more fees. So it's not just that initial 12 or whatever comes out of it. There are additional fees. In 4-12-7, the inspections and the renewals, my question is, if something is found, is the property owner available or able to correct that immediately? So let's just say it's a smoke detector that is hanging from the ceiling due to a tenant taking it down. Is the property owner able to put that smoke detector back in place in working order and not have a ding on the inspection? And And then in number E, and I do want to point out that in your notification to the property owners, state law says that they have to give the residents 24 hours written notice. So, in any of your notifications you're giving owners, please bear that in mind. But then it says if the non-compliant, if it's bugs or, again, smoke detectors down, or maybe housekeeping things. Those are things that are caused by a resident, not by the property owner. So I don't feel that the property owner should be penalized for those types of things. In number F, again, we're on 4-12-7. Other violations, not going out of the way to look for any other violations if they're in there on a complaint-based search. I question that, because if you see something else that's a violation, I have a hard time believing that that won't be written up. So I just want to point that out. And then in 4-12-10, D, number 6, it states that if the license is revoked, the unit must sit empty for a year. Well, that's a year of rental income. So I think that, we need to look closer at that. And then 4-12-12, number C, requires to make the tenants aware of legal non-conforming issues. I, again, don't agree that, if it's past inspection with the city, then why does the resident, it's obviously not a health safety issue. Why would the resident need to be informed? But I do definitely look forward to working with Mitchell and the rental property owners in Mitchell and the city to come to an agreement and work through this ordinance. But I would also urge whoever is going to be in that meeting, we look at your existing codes and really beef them up and give them teeth, because it's a shame that you're penalizing the good property owners for the acts of some bad actors, 1 or 2 or how many there are. It's not right to penalize the good ones for those that are not taking care of their properties. And I definitely agree, and that, properties need to be kept up. There's basic things that every human should have. And good housing is one of those. So I look forward to working with the city and property owners in Mitchell to come to a better agreement on how we can improve the rental housing there in Mitchell. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm just going to address a few things. I don't want to interrupt anyone too bad. To start this all over from the beginning of why the council's direction was this and why people reached out to us was, and I'm going to tell a story as well. What happens, one thing was tenants are not shackled by renting these apartments, and that's not true all the time. Some tenants come from out of town, they rent online, they have no idea it's a bad place, and then some poor 18-year-old DW nurse student rents a place that has cat pee all over the apartment, and there's literally no enforcement arm for those people. And that's where it's all stems from. Now, I am generally in favor of this, even though I'm generally a limited anti-government kind of guy. Not anti-government, that's probably a poor choice of words, Israel Republic. Is it an overreach? Yeah, probably is. I mean, I understand the case of that. Are plumbing inspections an overreach? Does every person that builds a home have to come in and get their house put? Every plumbing inspector comes into every remodel, every work. Electrical inspectors. Restaurants. How many of you guys would eat at a restaurant that never had a health inspection? Hotels. How many people would want to live in a hotel that never had an inspector check if they had bed bugs? A gas station that was never checked to make sure that their stuff is accurate. Now, I understand. To me, I can go either way on this, but I understand. One thing that someone said is, how many of you guys think the free market should decide? I think the free market's already decided. People will come to this town and they'll rent a terrible place and then they'll leave and never come back. And our population is declining. And I think that's some of the stuff that was said in the committee meeting and some of the things that was said in the past. The free market is deciding. We are not growing. We are reducing in population. Does this have a factor in it? We don't know. I think it's a pretty easy answer to say it probably does. The other thing is, this is supposed to be a tenant's voice, not a landlord's voice. The tenant doesn't have a whole lot of voice in this. South Dakota is a very landlord-friendly state. I'm a landlord. I get it. I have a bunch of stuff. My properties get inspected. I'm like, what? What are you coming into my apartments for? This is crazy. And are we making these laws, or are we, I'm almost certain this is definitely going to get absolutely crushed here shortly, but were these proposed for people that are doing a good job? No, of course not. No law is ever designed, like Terry said, for people that do a good job. And I apologize personally as a person and as mayor. We're not trying to attack all of you great landlords out there providing affordable housing for people that need it and doing a good job, because I'm almost certain every one of you guys would pass every one of these things. And the intention from the council, from me, from Mike, from anyone on the committee was not to penalize anybody in the community for that reason when you're doing a good job. Again, thank you. And I'm pretty sure, like I said, it's going to get crushed. But
well, and I think.
But real quick, I just want to finish this one thing.
I'm sorry.
How many of you guys would be in favor of just repealing all building codes in Mitchell to make affordable housing? We don't need framing inspection. We don't need foundation. We don't need I know. I understand that. But what I'm saying is, we use the building code as kind of a baseline, and then we backed off it big time to try to make it more landlord friendly. And you guys are right. Maybe we did a horrible job as a committee. Apologize. My first committee I've ever been on, and I think we tried to do pretty good. But if we did it wrong, then we did it wrong. But I just want to emphasize that we were not trying to attack the good landlords. And I think we can all agree here that we are thankful for everything that you guys do for our town, because there are thousands of rentals that support the population. This was really, literally, just like what you said, to try to stop the people that are not doing a good job in our community of keeping up on their places. But also, we know that a complaint basis doesn't work. Just like you said, if someone complains about something and they see something else, but it's just a complaint basis, it just doesn't work. So, I'm in favor of whatever you guys think. But we did put a tremendous amount of time into this to try to make it good, to try to not hurt the landlords. And that was never the intent. It was never the intent to hurt good landlords. I just want to make that very clear. And I don't think anyone's ever intention was to do that. And that's all I got. So go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, thank you. Honestly, well said. And, one of the things that, great discussion tonight, I think a couple things in my mind is kind of come to the forefront is do we really need a rental inspection? Well, we can set and have the committee and you guys can get your input. But more importantly is, do we need to take a better look at our nuisance ordinance? And why does it need to be complaint driven? Why can't we just have the nuisance ordinance or the officer drive around, there's that broken window. Well, what in the world? Okay, so let's get this taken care of. And then at that point in time, if with the ordinance that we have is let's Justin, whoever can kind of help us, if one of those college student calls up and talks about the bad plumbing, well, is there a way of having the ability of a code enforcer going inside the house and looking and trying to make it better? And that way, I have no idea. I'm reaching here, obviously.
No, you're right. And we had discussed that a lot, I think even previously as a council, but I think the initial direction the council had set was rather than be reactive, we were trying to be proactive. At least that's what the direction was.
Sure. Yeah. So no, that's good. So honestly, I think right now everything's on the table. I'm not going to support this, obviously, because we have more landlords that are against it than are for it, and so we got to listen to the people. So I think we kind of go back, take a look. Is there a check sheet? I heard that. Do we even need an inspector? Maybe not. Let's look at our code enforcer at this point in time, and then come back to the council in a few months. This was going to be a 2026 decision for our budget. Were we going to hire somebody or not? So we do have a little time here to put this thing together. And obviously you guys put a lot of thought and effort into coming here and passing along what you feel should be done, and the most of it saying nothing. Let us do what we do and do it better and the best, and then, but is there a way to maybe correct some of the worst that are out there without having to bring you guys into this? That's what I think I'm hearing, and that's basically what I would like to see if we could. And Justin, you're going to have to help us through this.
All right. Unless there's any closing remarks.
I personally think we just drop it.
Yeah, if we're going to kill it here and the landlords have that, then we just don't even bother ever bringing it back up.
It's our job to listen to the people. Let's just drop it. I don't think we need to have another committee. And
I agree.
I would like to move forward with the nuisance ordinance and have Justin come back with some suggestions of what we can and cannot do. And maybe there's nothing, but having a complaint driven ordinance, I've never really had that much comfort level with that, because as the story said, here's the little group of weeds here and the rest of the alley is exactly the same, if not worse, but there's no way I can touch that one, but boy, I can touch yours because somebody complained. So again, I just like to reopen it up, and maybe that might help us get to at least some of the solutions that we were initially concerned about.
Real quick, show of hands, how many of you guys, even if we did a bunch of work, would ever be in favor of a rental inspection of any fashion? That's right. That's what I'm saying. If it's going to die, let it die here, and never speak your big.
I would disagree that if this dies here, I would still like to look at ways to implement something. There was a lot of people that got up and said, it's not my property, that's the problem. But not one person said there's no properties with no problems. And I realize that that's a pretty high standard to set, that human safety is something that I think is very important to look at as far as rental properties go. And I do think that there are definitely people, we have 2 universities in our town that have students that come to our town that don't necessarily always get to look, or they get so desperate for housing, it becomes very late in the weekend. All of a sudden, it's like, I just need a place to live, and I'm going to make this work. I understand that this missed the mark for a lot of the folks in the audience. I think that there's another group of people that aren't here tonight that would say that an inspection process is still needed. And so even if it dies here tonight, I would still like to take a look and see if there's something that comes up. As just indicated, no matter what we come up with, the group that was here tonight is going to be against inspecting their properties, which I get. But we do have human safety issues that I think need to be addressed in the city of Mitchell, in rental properties. And maybe it's more advanced than even just rental properties. Maybe there's properties in general. And so certainly looking at another option or a way to do a higher code enforcement would be something I would be interested in. But I don't necessarily think that this dying is the solution to fix a problem that Mitchell very clearly, in my opinion, has.
Are you suggesting that code
Can you come up to
go into people's homes?
You have to come up to the podium if you want to say anything. Sorry.
No, so
it's okay.
It's just. I understand that correctly, that you're to take it further than that. Were you suggesting that a code enforcement officer would physically go into people's private residences?
No, that is not. I'm sorry. That was my.
I mean,
I feel like that's what he asked too, though. I agree.
Check my place.
I was like, yeah.
that was not my intention.
Okay,
that was what.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. I apologize.
Yeah, I thought the people supported it, but if the people don't, then let it die. All right, roll call. We have a motion to approve and a second to approve. So the motion is to approve. Roll call.
McCardle.
No.
Barrington.
No.
Bathke.
No.
Charks.
No.
Smith.
Nay.
Saber.
No.
Goldhammer.
Aye.
Oh,
She was answering complaint on TV.
Sorry, I didn't know if you heard me.
Dozier.
The motion fails.
Motion failed.
All right, we got one more thing. If you guys leave, just be quiet so we can just knock this last one out. I'm not trying to tell you that. I know you're all excited. So, yeah. Unless you want to watch a rezone. We lost our displays. So, okay, we'll hammer this out real quick. Hearing and reading on ordinance 2025-08, rezoning of Track F Wild Oak Golf Edition, City of Mitchell, as shown on the agenda. Mr. Jenigas.
Mr. Mayor and Council, Planning Commission recommended approval of this unanimously.
They didn't keep it down. Keep it down, please.
They are requesting the rezone because this is going to be part of the golf course. And so they want to switch it from R4 to CN so that they can put a golf course hole on that piece of property. With the HOA that they have out there, they have a 50-year contract that anything that is golf course right now has to stay golf course, and they can't do any more housing out in that area. So that's also, I'd like to rezone it to that. I can answer any questions that you have. There were 2 letters in favor of it.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer, second by Mr. Smith. Any further discussion? Smile, Marcia's taking the picture. Anyone in the audience? Anyone in the audience like to discuss this? Okay, roll call, last one.
Charks,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Sabers,
Aye.
Goldhammer,
Aye.
Dosher, McCardle, Barrington,
Aye.
Bathke.
And so that motion carries, and so everyone knows we were going to go into executive session for negotiations. Things have changed, so we're going to go ahead and cancel that. So do we get a motion to... Oh, okay, we're just adjourning then. We're adjourned. No, some things changed.